Institute of Chartered Accountancy of India. For him, Captain BP Singh, बुके लेके वेलकम करेंगे प्लीज. And so Mr. Kapadia is also a law graduate from Mumbai University. Welcome करिए उनको please. He has over 30 years of wide-ranging experience in advising MNCs and Indian corporates on domestic and international tax matters involving interpretation, compliance and litigation, including resolving disputes under MAP, transfer pricing, restructuring, regulatory matters. Sanjay has been involved with client transfer pricing strategy, including intellectual property planning and tax-efficient supply chain planning, and has advised and assisted in documentation, compliance, and concluding APAs. He has also advised and assisted clients in setting up business in and outside India, and also advised individuals on taxation, regulatory, and inheritance matter. Inheritance का भी issue आता है बहुत सारे, so that's a totally big topic. Previous work experience है, Mr. Sanjay Kapadia साहब has held senior partnership with BSR. BSR is a, I think, Norwegian company. Indian है, okay. And associates LLP, KPMG, then ENY, PwC, RSM and company, and BS Mehta and company, Bansi S Mehta affiliate. He has served on panel Kerr Foster UK-based accounting firm, International Tax Committee, co-opted member of the Corporate and Allied Laws Committee 2005 and 6, and Direct Tax Committee 8 and 9 of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, co-authored Bombay Chartered Account Society Transfer Pricing Manual. In past, served on the editorial board of Taxman's monthly journal on international taxation. So we welcome Mr. Sanjay Kapadia, sir. We are very pleased. Then we have Mr. Sanjay Grover. I will request our chairman, Captain Shah, to please welcome him in the bouquet and bring him to the dais. Captain Mudli साहब, नॉटिकल हमारे एक्स नॉटिकल एडवाइजर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, काइंडली वेलकम. सो हाँ, इनको हम लोग इनको बुलाएंगे, हाँ बुलाएंगे, आपको बुलाएंगे अभी. सो मिस्टर संजय ग्रोवर, तो like, you know, I personally know him for last 25-26 years when he was in the Arthur Andersen, and I know that he has worked with 5-6 finance minister, late Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, Mr. Chidambaram sir, then late Arun Jaitley, also Madam Sitaraman, and he has led INSA, also MASA, FOSMA, some of the key tax matter. And as a seafarer, you know, we are not the tax professional, we are not expert in this matter, so we write like a story, you know, जैसे कि काऊ के बारे में लिखना है तो keep writing the four-legged animal, you know, and that does not is not accepted in the ministry. So he has beautifully written that time, and you know, he has made the column कि what are the matters, what is the existing law, what are the roadblocks, what are the demand, next column, then what will be the impact on the fiscal matter in India if the government of India gives the tax exemption. And with that he presented it, and that time Mr. Rajiv Kumar, तो राजीव है या राजीव कुमार, लास्ट में ई रहता था, RAJIVE, Rajiv Kumar, he was the secretary shipping who became the chief secretary to UP government. So we had presented them, and then Gadkari sir hai, and the matter in 2015-16 I think it was resolved. So the full credit to Mr. Sanjay Grover. The Sanjay Grover is a chartered accountant. After clearing his CA examination in 1987 and securing an All India rank 38, he joined Arthur Andersen India, part of Andersen Group and the largest accounting firm in the world. he was elevated to the position of tax partner in 99. Post 2002, he joined Ernst & Young, ENY, India as a tax partner. He retired from ENY in September 22 and was associated as a consultant in India with his fifth largest accounting firm in the world. He is currently an independent consultant. He is काफ़ी एज हो गया है, हमसे उम्र में बड़े हैं, बट स्टिल हमसे बहुत ज़्यादा काम करते हैं. तो नाउ ही इज़ इंडिपेंडेंट ना. संजय ग्रोवर एरिया ऑफ एक्सपर्टीज इज डायरेक्ट टैक्स, एक्सचेंज कंट्रोल एंड अदर रेगुलेशन. ये एक्सचेंज कंट्रोल जो है, द शिपिंग कंपनी है, सो दैट इज़ गेटिंग हिट because every time you get the money, then there are a lot of laws, FEMA and FERA, that comes under this. His leadership roles, amongst others, included leader of personal tax and the exchange control regulatory practices of Arthur Andersen, leader of the oil and gas tax practice for more than 15 years. ये जो oil and gas का है, energy sector, it's also a very complex taxation issue. So I know that about 4 or 5 years back, he was working with the Russian company who has established the refinery in Vadinar. SR का जो merge हुआ है ना, so that tax कैसे मतलब structure होगा, क्या होगा. So he was doing that because I was called by one of them, you know. So that we welcome Sanjay Grover sir and Sanjay Kapadia and Kartik sir, Kartik Mehta ji, and all are the tax lawyer. और हमारे यहाँ ऐसे भी मतलब एक कहावत होता है शिपिंग में कि पैसा कमाने वाला कोई भी रहे, मतलब यू कैन बी फ्रॉम बिहार, यूपी, महाराष्ट्र, लेकिन वो सामान बेचने वाला और पैसा को बताने वाला गुजराती ही रहता है, समझे, या राजस्थानी. सो ही इज एक्सपर्ट इन दैट. द टैक्स कंप्लायंस है, जो कंप्लायंस जो होता है, दैट इज इन देयर ब्लड. ओके, एंड so we welcome them. Now we are fortunate that we have Captain Mudli sir, जो आते आते कॉफ़ी पी रहे थे, लेकिन यू नो आई एम सॉरी सर कि मैंने इनका हाथ एक किया तो कॉफ़ी इसी में गिर गया, तो पूरा गर्म हो गया भी, मतलब बॉडी इनका गर्म हो गया, नो कॉफ़ी हाथ में गिरा. तो आई होप दैट इट वाज नॉट ए बर्न. ओके, नाउ आई विल वेलकम कैप्टन मुरली सर ऑन द डायस एंड रिक्वेस्ट कैप्टन इनके साथ हमारे चैप्टर चेयरमैन है टू फेलिसिटेट हिम विद द बुके प्लीज. एक बुके. तो कैप्टन मुरली सर हैं, सो यू नो वी ऑल नो दैट ही हैज बीन वर्किंग विद द डीजी शिपिंग फॉर मोर देन 20 years, 25 years, एंड so he has worked on the various positions in DG shipping and retired a few months back as a nautical advisor. जो हमारे shipping में you know everybody dream is to become nautical advisor, that is the highest position, and जो engineers हैं उनको chief surveyor. So he is one of that dream position. Okay, so we welcome him. Also the good thing is that इनकी लड़की है. Okay, one is in shipping and one is the lawyer. So Mr. Sanjay Grover can give her training also in future. No, she is a lawyer. Okay, so welcome. Marine lawyer. Marine lawyer. Okay, and we have the Navi Mumbai team है, comprises Captain N.K. Shah sir, he is the chairman, and Pawan Gupta है, he is हम लोग उनको ऑलराउंडर रखे हुए हैं, जहाँ कमी होता है वहाँ फिट कर देते हैं. इज़ मोस्ट एनर्जेटिक अमंग अस, इंड्रेसिया, CMMI, आप जहाँ बोलिए वहाँ हैं. देन आई हैव कैप्टन BP सिंह साहब, कैप्टन मोमिन. टुडे वी डोंट हैव कैप्टन विराफ, ही हैज़ गॉन फॉर सम ऑफिशियल वर्क, हु इज़ इन फ्लीट, एंड इट्स अ वेरी क्लोज निट family. Time to time we do, and we expect you to be interactive, and जब बोलेंगे क्वेश्चन पूछिएगा जो भी है. सो विद दिस वी विल से दैट वी स्टार्ट इट. नाउ स्पीकर.
Just 1 minute I'll take. how many seafarers sailing first?
Both sailing.
Good. The best part of Navi Mumbai CMMI is we always have practicing seafarers. We are
Retired, faltu hai.
so far. Okay, and Nalin, with your permission, I was out for 10 days, came last night, and thank you Nalin, BP and the team. We have almost good this thing. So before we hand over to Sanjay, now this is extra that has come to my mind just now. That seafarers taxation, financial management, we are all from the seafaring side. Maybe we can request Captain Murli few minutes to say something relevant or whatever way.
Please.
Then we can hand over and we can go back to
Good morning, everybody. And nice to see you, the young crowd of seafarers. And mostly, I think you're from Navi Mumbai. Okay, very nice. And there are a lot of people also there online. They've been observing on the Zoom. And it was my privilege that, I've been leading the DG shipping on the nautical side. And anyway, I've retired last March. And I've been now here, just cooling period time. But anyway, I'm always welcome for this type of seminar and other things. And I'm always available. And for your information, I stay in the same sector as this. So I don't stay anyway. It's also 19A and my home is also in the 19A. So I'm always welcome. With respect to the other things, most of the already you know the COC matter and other things, there is nothing much changed so far. In fact, yesterday I had a get together with my juniors also. And nothing much we are doing at present with the, but anyway, the STCW revision, it has been under process. That is what is going on. And as for the DG shipping is concerned, same thing, only we are trying to upgrade our e-governance system, which is very slow. And that's all. Any particular things you want to know, then I can tell you then. Not exactly drastic change. See, so far what has happened in the STCW committee, I think they are we have experts here already, Captain Debu and his group, basically. So they are talking about the celestial navigation, which is part will be removed basically, and moreover the AI and the electronic things will be coming into the system. So how do you unmanned vessel, that mass other thing, that is what basically coming in the our competency. And but it's time that is what they are working. Abhi is 2027 will be coming basically. So it's still in the nascent stage basically. Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, Captain Murli. Captain Murli is always supportive, available for CMMI and shipping fraternity. So, I think now welcome, everything is done. Let's get to the business, and I'll request Sanjay Groverji and team to take the stage.
Well, thank you very much. I am not a person who can sit at one place for long. So I will roam around and request wherever you do. I need a mic? My wife tells me I'm too loud anyway, so I don't think I'll need a mic. Okay, recording. Fine. Let me lower the volume. I think the volume will be too high. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I think I got an opportunity to get a feedback in terms of what the audience is expecting, because that's very important. It's like equating, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you're good to know what the audience is expecting and attempt to deliver. And I hope we are able to do that, but we'll attempt to do that. But what I'm going to do is, to start with, I'm going to tell you what all we are going to cover. I don't think we are going to cover everything what is needed. Certainly not going to cover a magic formula where you are going to become a millionaire tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't have that. I'm still searching for it. But what we are going to cover, let me go through that. So the first thing is, have you planned your finances well? You know, we thought of adding that well in the end. First, we just left it at have you planned your finances, but then we said no. Hopefully, by the end of this session, you will at least look in that direction where you are able to plan your finances well. And honestly speaking, what we're going to talk about it is no rocket science. It's very simple. And we'll come to that. And then after that, one of the very important aspects of planning finances is taxability. It's very simple. You know, you earn 100, 35 goes away. And if you're earning more, then probably 42, 43 goes away. So if you had that 35 or 42 and you were able to invest in the current stock market, you know, you could have gone a lot of places. So it's very, very important to look at what's the situation as far as taxes is concerned. So are you tax exempt in India, which is a part of taxes? We will discuss that. One very important thing which most of the people are confused about, you know, you have this concept of resident in India. Now, as we will explain, as far as income tax is concerned and as far as FEMA is concerned, which I will refer to it as exchange control regulations, there are two completely different concepts. Completely different concepts. Usually one tends to get confused between those two concepts, but hopefully either we will clear the air today or you will be thoroughly confused. So there is no in between. At least you are either here or there. Nobody will be in between. But hopefully there will be more people who will have clarity in terms of what's the difference between residency under the Indian Income Tax Act and residency under the exchange control regulations. And some people will be there on the other side, but hopefully that's a minority and not a majority. Because I'll give you one simple example. You have an NRI account? Not subject to tax in India. Okay? Is not subject to tax in India. But you can maintain an NRI account only till you are a non-resident, not as per Income Tax Act. You are a exchange control of FEMA talks about resident outside India. You will be able to maintain a NRE account and therefore the tax exemption provided you are a resident outside India as per Indian exchange control regulations. So effectively, what I'm saying is tax exemption is available only if you are not a non-resident as per Income Tax Act. No. You are a non-resident as per Indian exchange control regulations. So you see the difference. So we will explain that. Now I must admit, you know, what I'm going to cover is what I have learned over 35, 37 years. And the expectation is that I compress it in 3.5 hours. We will attempt to do that to the maximum extent possible. But I must admit that, you know, it's not an impossibility, but close to an impossibility. But the idea is to leave behind thoughts, you know, this is what we heard somewhere, and therefore it needs to be looked at. We'll clear some concepts. There are some concepts which are complex.
The idea for that is to leave behind the thought कि अगर if we land up in that situation or if we are in that situation, then we need to check or consult. So that's what our objective will be. So what first I'm going to take over is what I'm going to discuss is, have you planned your finances? And we've not written well here. Hopefully, after going through the next slide, it's just one slide, the well should get added. So what is financial planning? Actually, to tell you frankly, if you look at it based on my experience, it is a roadmap to success. And I will go through these points based on my experience when I look back 35 years, when I have done things right or not done things right. And when I look back now, I think if somebody had guided me appropriately on some very small things, I probably would have done things lot different and would have been much better off as compared to where I am today. So first is setting a financial goal. What do you mean by setting a financial goal? I don't know. I think everybody, all of us here, hopefully, do some kind of budgeting. Obviously, I mean, I earn 100 rupees and, this is what my expenditure is. But the thing is that what is the ferocity or what is the minuteness in which we do the budgeting? And human beings, very interestingly, you start on a small little thing. So first, you say that, okay, I have to go from here to Churchgate. When you say I have to go from here to Churchgate, you don't think of the road that you're going to take, the mode of transport that you're going to take. What time are you going to leave? Obviously, that may be taken into consideration, but you don't look at the minute things. But once you have the place where you're going to leave from and the place where you're going to go to, then automatically questions start coming. Yaar, jaunga kaise? How will I go? Should I go by train? Should I go by car? So it's very important to first lay a goal. Because once you have a goal, then you start filling up the mechanics in terms of how to lay the goal. Now, we as human beings, what we tend to do, we want to solve everything in one go. My philosophy is one. Start from something very simple. Take a step at a time and then go complicated. Now, most of us here are starting in our careers. So that's the right time. I wish somebody had told me when I had started my career and guided me, then this is the way to go about it. Now, some of the things that I'm going to say may sound completely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. But the thing is, think about it and it'll really help. Now, what I'm saying is, what is setting of a goal? You decide whether you want to have 5 goals or 6 goals, but most important ones. And don't get too complicated about it. Now, I'm going to tell you something which will say, yaar, wo to 40 saal baad hone wala pagal hai, main abhi thodi nahi sochunga. That is the mistake that I made. That is exactly the mistake. The objective is not at this point of time to reach that goal tomorrow. The objective is to find the right mode of transport, like what I said, from here to there. Find the shortest distance. अगर आपको यही नहीं मालूम आपको जाना कहाँ है, how will you find the shortest distance to reach there? So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is, how much money will you want when you want to retire? Now, if I ask a 26 or 27-year or 23-year-old person, अरे यार अभी तो काम चालू नहीं किया तुम रिटायरमेंट की बात कर रहे हो यार. But that's where planning comes up. What do you mean by planning? That's where planning comes up. Now, this is nothing to do with tax. It's got nothing. It's to do with plain simple principles. Question is, at the age of 63, I've started. I wish I had started earlier, but I've started planning now, and it's made a difference. And I will tell you how. It's made a difference. So, if you can identify कि यार मेरे को 40 साल के बाद, let it go wrong, doesn't make a difference. But at least you'll start thinking. मेरे को 40 साल के बाद 3 लाख रुपया महीना चाहिए होगा खर्चे के लिए. वेरी सिंपल. अगर आपको 3 लाख रुपया चाहिए खर्चे के लिए महीने का, तो 36 लाख रुपीज अ ईयर. 36 लाख रुपीज अ ईयर एट टुडेज रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आपको कितना पैसा चाहिए? कॉम्प्लिकेटेड तो नहीं है ना, वेरी सिंपल नो. सिमिलरली टेक 4 मोर थिंग्स. 40 साल के बाद पेपर पेन से लीजिए, 40 साल के बाद मेरे को ये चाहिए, फिर उसके बैकवर्ड आए कि यार बीच में कुछ गड़बड़ी हो सकती है, जब भी मैं बूढ़ा होऊंगा, पेरेंट्स हैं, ये वो है. मेडिकल के लिए मेरे को कितना 20-30 लाख रुपया चाहिए, 20-30 लाख रुपया चाहिए, पर वो इनकम नहीं, वो कैपिटल चाहिए. सो 2 बकेट्स बना दीजिए, इनकम बना दीजिए, कैपिटल बना दीजिए. फिर और पास आए, मेरे बच्चों की शादी होगी, उसके लिए पैसे चाहिए, घर लेना है उसके लिए पैसे चाहिए. Write down these 4 or 5 things, and then what you need to do is, for each one of them, you need to identify. ये जो आपने 5 buckets बनाई है ना, जो 5 buckets बनाई हैं, you identify कि अगर मैं, let's say मेरे को 10 साल बाद 10 लाख रुपए चाहिए, मेरे को बच्चे की शादी करनी है, 10 साल के बाद 10 लाख रुपए चाहिए. वेरी सिंपल, आप ऐसे कीजिए कि अगर आज मैं 2000 रुपए महीना इन्वेस्ट करना चालू कर दूं एट 10% रेट ऑफ रिटर्न, मेरे को 10 लाख रुपया मिलेगा कि नहीं? Say, or you've already started thinking. Exactly what I was saying. मैंने तो सिर्फ आपको बोला है कि मैं यहां से चर्च गेट जा रहा हूं, बीच में मैंने कुछ किया नहीं. Exactly what happens is, most of us don't do these things because we start complicating matters. अरे वो inflation होगा, वो होगा. Yeah, he said, कि what about inflation? You haven't factored in inflation. And I said, that's exactly what I'm saying. Start with very simple. You will automatically think of then the complications, like what the example that I gave, from going from New Bombay to Churchgate. Oh, inflation होगा. यार पहले ये तो सोच लो ना कि. So basically what I'm trying to say is, first prepare a very simple Excel sheet which says, घर लेने का है, बच्चों का शादी करने का है, मेडिकल का रखने का है, and then what do you call, after so many years, I want so much of income. Make a total in terms of how much do you need to save today. Now, the advantage of doing that today as compared to 20 years down the road, which is the mistake that I made. If I had started 35 years back, I would have had to save maybe 3,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees a month. Today, I have to save 1,00,000 rupees a month. So what will happen is that if you put down if you do this exercise, the amount of money that you have to save as a proportion of your income is very, very small. Very small. Now what that will do is that it will tell you कि यार मेरे को 3,000 रुपए या 4,000 रुपए या 5,000 रुपए सेव करने का ही है अगर मेरे को ये चाहिए. तो ऑटोमेटिकली देन यू विल स्टार्ट थिंकिंग, मेरी इनकम तो 3 लाख रुपए की है, घर का खर्चा 1 लाख रुपए हो जाता है. ऑटोमेटिकली दिस गोज अप इन योर प्रायोरिटी लाइन. ओके, व्हेन इट गोज अप इन योर प्रायोरिटी लाइन, देन ऑटोमेटिकली कि यार वो गाड़ी लेनी है, यू से ओके ठीक है यार, 1 महीना 1 साल वेट कर लेते हैं क्योंकि ये मेरे को जरूर करना. सो यू स्टार्ट देन अदर थिंग्स दैट यू रिक्वायर, you expand the bucket, but what you do is you go about it in a systematic manner. Now the question is, did I do it? I am a chartered accountant. I can ask these people. They are chartered accountants. They are professionals in committees. Have they done it?
You always postpone. What is important for me today?
used to at that point of time say you buy annuity policies, right? Now at that point of time when you're at a young age, okay, your premium is much, much lower. So if you start that, this is all just, you know, as you start thinking, kind of, you know, so those buyback policies. So there used to be products around that, but I actually, someone came, explained, but at that point of time, thought, रुक जाते हैं ना, next year करते हैं. See, by postponing something, you can never get to, you know, a solution. So don't postpone the problem. Okay, you may at that point of time feel a pinch कि नहीं, वो से 50,000 का महीने का मेरे को करना है. You know, I have to pay this. Means I'm committing 50,000 rupees for a month for next 20 years, the premium, right? Today, after 3 years, 50,000 will be there. So then I will say, अरे वो 3 साल के बाद करेंगे ना, अभी तो मेरे को, you know, let me live my life. वो मेरे को 50,000 नहीं लिखा है. So don't postpone. That is what I have learned in a hard way.
Okay, so coming back, setting a financial goal where I said you start with just 5 things or 6 things, most important things in your life. Start with that and then gradually bring it up, because there will be a lot of things that are required to be done. You need a medical insurance, you need various other things which is likely to eat into your monthly expenditure. So start with a simple thing and then grow it. So once you have a budget of, let's say, 5 things or 6 things or 7 things, you have a goal, you will automatically come up with a budget. What that will say is, if I have to reach, let's say, 3 lakh rupees a month after 40 years, and if today's rate of return, not taking inflation into consideration, various other things into consideration, if I have to earn 3 lakh rupees, that is 36 lakh rupees a year, और अगर मेरे को 9% या 10% interest मिले, तो you gross it up and then say मेरे को तब इतना पैसा चाहिए. Okay. And if I invest, let's say 20,000, 10,000, 5,000 for this thing, then I will get that money. The next thing that comes in investment strategy. किस में पैसा डालूं? अगर मेरे को 1 करोड़ रुपया 40 साल के बाद चाहिए, तो where should I invest money today to make that 1 crore rupees? You know, this will start coming automatically. Obviously, I mean, if you want to gather that, you know, if you want to have that kind of money, then where do you go? Now, another important aspect which most of us, even though we are professionals and we don't realize, is the power of compounding. It's very simple, you know, when you, अगर आप FD में पैसा डालते हो और 10% rate of interest है, you know, that 10% gets added to your principal, your rate of interest increases exponentially. Now, one very important thing which all of us don't realize is, you know, what we want? We want to put money in today and we want to multiply it, or we want it to get multiplied in 3 years 500 times. वो नहीं होता है यार. Doesn't happen. So when you factor in the concept of compounding and as well as risk management. See, the more risk you take, the more probability of either very high return or no return. You know, we can lose our money also. And, you know, all of us are here, even we as professionals, people who are not businessmen, don't have the mental makeup. अगर आपको कोई बोले यार कि you give me 1 lakh rupees, either आपका 2 लाख हो जाएगा or you will not get back anything. At least I will not invest. We are not made that way. Because, you know, we work 12 hours a day and our return is fixed at the end of the month. It's not like a businessman, where he will put X hours a day and there is a probability that, you know, that will increase exponentially over a period of time. In our case, it doesn't increase exponentially. और बढ़ेगा भी तो ठीक है, 15-20% साल का बढ़ेगा, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं बढ़ने वाला है. So the thing is, automatically then you come to, you start thinking of risk. यार मैं FD में डालूं या म्यूचुअल फंड में डालूं यार कोई और रिस्की एसेट में डालूं. So automatically what has happened is, coming back, you know, you've thought of 5 things what you need, and then you've thought of what do I need to invest today to ensure that I get those 5 things at whatever period of time in my life. Then you start deciding कि यार अगर इन्वेस्ट कर रहा हूं किस में इन्वेस्ट करूं, एफडी में इन्वेस्ट करूं, एफडी में इन्वेस्ट करोगे तो यू नो योर रिटर्न विल बी 7 or 8%. सो देन व्हाट यू डू इज यू स्टार्ट डिसाइडिंग कि यार I can take a little bit of risk. So let me put, if I'm 24 years old, because see, equities over a period of time give a larger return as compared to fixed deposits or instruments which are safe. Obviously, what happens is lower the risk, the lower the return, higher the risk, the higher the return. Now the question is, all of us don't have the capability of evaluating कि यार कौन से शेयर में डालें. हमको तो पता नहीं है. We don't have the time to do it. We don't have the mental makeup to do it. So then automatically you start deciding कि यार I can take a risk. Even if I make a mistake, if I start, you know, early, my ability to take risk is much higher because my earning life is still there. तो ठीक है, you know, if some bets go wrong, I can still rectify those. अगर मैं ये, you know, in my age at 63, I invest in the stock market and I lose everything, I'm not earning. मेरा तो सब problem हो जाएगी. I will sink. But when you're young, you're earning your income on a monthly basis. So that is why they say, is that when you are 24, 25 years old, you can still take a risk of investing 70% of your savings in stocks. But for heaven's sake, stock market is not it's not Las Vegas. Most of us look at stocks as Las Vegas. यार वो रूले खेला या ब्लैक जैक खेली और लग गया तो. See, the thing is, if you invest over a period of time, and that's the mistake that I made. I will tell you my example. I was working with Anderson and EY. And we have a lot of restrictions in terms of investing in stocks of our clients. Now, if I'm a partner, I cannot invest in any of the stocks where my firm is working in. Any. Forget about me, even my wife cannot this thing, my child cannot. But there was still some instruments which I could invest in. You know the biggest mistake that I made? I left all my money in fixed deposits. I am supposed to be a professional who's got so much of experience. I left all my money in fixed deposits. If at that point of time, and my logic is, you know what, at that point of time, कि यार अगर मैं, if I spend 4-5 hours more in working, I will make much more money as compared to spending 4-5 hours in managing my finances. But boss, if the 5 additional hours that I had spent on my employment, if I had cut it down, instead of 5, if I had devoted 3 there and 2 here, I am honestly telling you, I would have been twice as rich today as compared to what I am today, or maybe even 3 or 4 times. Because what had happened was, I would have invested small amount over a period of time, which because of compounding would have increased substantially. Because see, in stock markets, what happens is that when we invest in stock market, we see every day, अरे यार आज stock ऊपर गया, आज stock नीचे गया. नहीं, that's not the way to look at it. When you're planning, you put money in stocks and forget about it. You need to review plans once a year, not every day. Because this is not money for today. This is the money that you need for, you know, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road. And you know, the unfortunate thing is, at your later age in life, it becomes extremely difficult, especially after you retire. I mean, क्या करोगे? किसके पास जाओगे? You know, nobody is going to finance your expenditure on a, your monthly expenditure. You're by yourself. And even if we, the old school of thought that was there, our kids will take care of us. The kids are struggling themselves. We are kids, yeah. We are struggling ourselves. So if our parents had planned well and they were self-sufficient and did not look at us for supporting them, life would have been very different. Yeah. If they had medical policies and if they had a monthly expenditure where they could live by themselves and, they had a house by themselves, a lot of us would not be in a situation where we are today, where we have so much of mental pressure. So the thing is, if you look at it, it's very simple. Identify 10 things, identify how much money do you need, how much you need to invest, then automatically you start thinking, कि किसके अंदर पैसा डालूं, and some principles. Equity delivers good over a long period of time. You're not looking at short term. See, short term gains are for people who have lots of money. See, क्या है कि मैं अगर 1 लाख रुपए एक स्टॉक में डाल दूंगा, वो 100 टाइम तो ऊपर जाने नहीं वाला. It's not going to go up by 100 times. तो ठीक है, अगर मैं 20% भी गेन कर लूंगा, 30% भी गेन कर लूंगा, I'll make 20,000-30,000 rupees. That's not going to be able to give me a house or a car or, settle my kids. So, when you're looking at gains, substantial gains, unfortunately are for people who have large amount of money, who, even when the needle moves slightly, is a reasonable big chunk. Now, for them, it's not reasonable. I mean, for them, anyway, it's petty cash. But unfortunately for us, that's not the way it works. ठीक है, 10 लाख रुपए डाल दोगे किसी शेयर में डाल दो, वो क्या डबल हो जाएगा ना. अगर डबल भी हो जाएगा तो 12-13% तो टैक्स हो जाएगा. 8 लाख के गेन में you will not be able to settle your kids or you will not be able to retire. So you have to have a very different look as far as the stock market is concerned. How many of us here have hit a lottery ever? Nobody. Stock market is like that. It's a lottery. I mean, in the past, whatever, 2 or 3 years, the stock market has gone up by this thing. It will stabilize. It will fall. But if you look at it over a period of, and you got time on your side, if you look at it over a period of, let's say, whatever, 25, 30 years, you will be able to make, most important, if you get your investment strategy right, you will not lose. Or the probability of losing will be lower. But what you will make is average return of, let's say, 8 to 10% compounded on an annual basis, which will be much more as compared to events where the stock goes up by 50% or 60%. You will not make 100% or 200% returns. But what you will do is, you will make a compounded return over a period of 24 or 25 years, say 5, 7, 8%, but you have to get your strategy right. I have one more question. How many of us actually spend time, especially from the younger generation? I mean, we as tax expert and lawyers, I have retired. I still spend about 6-7 hours a day reading when I'm not working. How many of us actually spend time to update knowledge, to enhance our careers, to improve our careers? I mean, if I'm a junior officer, I aspire to become a senior officer, तो हम सब पढ़ते हैं. कौन कौन पढ़ता है? Huh? Everybody does it? There's no choice. Huh? There's no choice. Now let me ask you, as far as your finances is concerned, everybody here What is the aspiration? The aspiration is that you have enough money so you don't have to worry about. Correct? Financial independence, right terminology. Financial independence. Should that not be your second most important goal as compared to your career? Because why are you doing your career? See, I will tell you, 99% of the people today, if you go and ask, are you happy in what you're doing? Or maybe 99% is too much, I'm old school of thought. But a very large percentage of people will say, yaar, theek hai, kaam to hai, but I'm basically doing for money. Am I right? Huh? अगर मेरे पास ऑप्शन होता तो मैं और कुछ करता, अगर मेरे पास पैसा होता तो मैं और कुछ करता, ये नहीं काम करता. और द प्रॉब्लम इज, अगर पैसा होता भी, इफ यू डन समथिंग एल्स, दैट आल्सो यू वुड हैव सेड ये नहीं करता, मैं और कुछ करता. So the thing is that all of us actually concentrate on our careers because we want financial independence. And we want to improve our financial independence, correct? Now, if we want to improve our financial independence, what we do is, we attempt to gain experience and we attempt to gain knowledge. For that we work. How many of us actually, for the purpose of gaining financial independence, spend time on learning about finances? It's the second most important thing in your life. Exactly the mistake that I have made for 20 years. I made it for, I'm a chartered accountant and I'm admitting it. Because I concentrated more on my work and not on my financial independence, independent of my work. So another thought that I want to leave behind, is that I'm not saying spend 7 hours a day. In my view, spend 10 minutes a day. You know, we are living in a world where so much of information is available. And, you know, I really wish I was an engineer. You know why? Engineering makes you think logically. It trains your mind to think logically. Now, once you have the capability of thinking logically, there is nothing under the sun which you can't learn. Nothing. All that you need is you need to gather information. What do you mean by information and knowledge? All you need to do is gather information. After you gather information, when you connect the dots, that becomes knowledge. Now, as an engineer, you are taught, first of all, to absorb information, and then secondly, connect information. So my very important aspect on, you know, how you plan your finances well is spend 10 minutes a day on the second most important thing in your life. Go to YouTube. Understand or hear, read. I am telling you, if you do that, I'll give you a very simple example actually. I was in Kerala and I was speaking to a cab driver when he picked me up from the hotel early in the morning and he was going to drop me to the airport. And there was something that I learned which blew me apart, I'm telling you. It really blew me. You know what he said? He said in Kerala, the circulation of newspapers is the highest. You know why? Because, at the assembly in school, every school, at the assembly in every school, when kids are ahead, 2 kids ask, tell us one thing which you read in the newspaper today. Can you imagine? And I mean, you know, kids at the age of class 1, class 2, I'm not going to be able to read the newspaper entirely. But can you imagine a kid, and I'll come back to the example of, spending 10 minutes every day, is that if a kid reads even one article from class 1, can you imagine the extent of information that is there in the kid's head 365 days for whatever, 20 years? Can you imagine how knowledgeable that kid will be by the time that kid reaches maturity coming back? Spend 10 minutes. Spend 10 minutes. After, 4 or 5 years, I can guarantee you will be speaking instead of me here. You guys are engineers. You have been taught to think logically. So there's nothing that you can't master. So again, another takeaway. Yeah. Doesn't make a difference. The thing is, at the position that you're in, you will not be at the position that you're in unless you've not been imbibed with the habit of being able to think logically and come to a logical conclusion. So even if you're not an engineer, see, engineers are taught and therefore they master it. But a lot of us may not be engineers, but based on the position that you're in, you won't be at a position if you're not able to come up with solutions, no? How do you come up with solutions? You have to think logically and come up with a solution. So, another aspect that I throw at you, all these things, everything is available. Unfortunately, today, there is an information overload. What will happen is that if you do 10 minutes on a daily basis, you guys are experts in picking up what is relevant. But to pick up what is relevant, you need to know what is there, no? So, if you spend 10 minutes on a daily basis, it will take you probably 2-3 months to get to know the landscape. It's like, when I'm going for a holiday to Agra. Abhi Agra is just a city, no? So first of all, I need to identify wo Agra mein hai kya. Then I will need to identify which are the places in Agra that I need to go amongst the 20 places. So if I don't know the 20 places to go to Agra, then I will not be able to identify which places to go to. So similarly, so if you spend 5-10 minutes on a daily basis, in the first 2-3 months, you'll be kind of little lost. But then you need to come back and tell yourself, boss, this is the second most important thing in my life here. It's the second most important thing in my life. And another aspect that is there, a very important thing is that in today's world, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whichever profession that you're in, economics and tax and regulation always comes in. Now, if you're a captain of a ship, besides manning your ship, you have to know so many regulations that it's not funny. You have to apply economic principles for the purpose of taking decisions if you are actually managing a ship that is not funny, which you don't even realize. So, I think captains are bloody half lawyers here. The amount of laws that are applicable as far as ships are concerned, you can't throw a bloody banana off, from this thing, and otherwise you'll get penalized. So, in your profession, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be an economist, and if you're an engineer, I mean, that's an icing on the cake. Eh? Yes, sir. Kartik. Okay. So, I think I'll just wrap it up, just go. So, I've spoken about enough about it. So, I think going from top to bottom or bottom to top, I think I would say spend 10 minutes on a daily basis on YouTube, learn. Because this is the second most important thing which will get you to financial independence. Okay? And It's fairly obvious. I mean, if you carry out this simple exercise, start with, something very small, and automatically, when you start, you'll automatically start putting more fancy stuff inside. कि यार inflation है, ये है, वो है, and if you start understanding and reading or listening, now though you don't even need to read, you just need to listen. I mean, you'll start incorporating stuff which you won't realize you actually, it is so simple, of it before. So what are the benefits of early financial planning? I think the biggest one is your ability to take risk. Biggest one is ability to take risk, and secondly, the power of compounding. So you can actually get the same amount of returns without taking too much risk. If you actually, statistically, if you see, if you had put in money 30 years back in a fixed deposit as compared to equity, obviously equity is done better, but the range is not wide off the mark. Is not wide off the mark. Now, another thing, I'll give you an example. You put money in a fixed deposit. That becomes taxable. Assuming you're in a 35% bracket. I'm just assuming. Or let's say, for simplicity's sake, you're in a 20% bracket. So, आपको 100 interest mila, you get 100 interest, 20 goes away every year. Now, if you put the same in a debt fund, that interest gets taxable when you withdraw the money. So that 20% of whatever 8 or 9% actually earns interest on an annual basis. Very simple. You get the same return. How will you know about it? Only if you understand it. How will you understand it? Either you attend these seminars or go to YouTube. 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day can actually increase your return by 2 to 3%. Can you imagine? I'm not saying spend 5 hours, 6 hours, 7. 10 minutes a day can actually increase your return by 2 to 3%. I don't think there is a better investment that you can make, but you have to prioritize it. So, okay, I am going to stop here. I think I've kind of covered everything. The next thing is the most, again, very important. If you earn 100, 35 goes away as tax. Okay? If you continue to, if there was a possibility of having that 35 also, not only the base would have been higher, but the rate of return on that 35% also would have added to your baseline. So let's see how we can do that. But there's one more thing which you need to take into consideration as far as tax is concerned. See, when you make an investment, you either get a higher rate of return or you get a lower rate of return. Hopefully, you will not lose the money. Assuming that you don't lose the money, you will either get a higher rate of return or you get a lower rate of return. So what is your upside or the downside? The upside is a higher rate of return. The downside is a lower rate of return. When you come to tax, the upside is that you will save tax. The downside is that you have to pay penalties. So there's a financial outgo. Whereas in investment, you don't have to pay penalties. In tax, no, obviously, in investment, I'm saying assuming that you don't lose money, because that becomes a penalty then, assuming you don't lose money. The upside is you make more, or the downside is you make a lower rate of return. But in tax, either you save money or you pay penalties. That is why one has to be doubly careful as far as tax is concerned, that the positions that you take are correct positions. Because see, the problem is, I am a tax expert, I have been a partner with EY, but do I have the capacity to go and fight and hire lawyers for the purpose of fighting? So what you have to do is, when you're looking at tax, you have to look at two things. One is, what is the law? And secondly, what you also have to look at is, sometimes you may take the right position also. But if it's going to lead to litigation, then it's an additional tax, no? Basically what I have to look at is what I retain and how I can increase what I have. Now whether it goes as tax or whether it goes as consultant fee, it's a tax for me, no? Okay, so let's look at tax. Over to you, Kartik. And so, see, there is interest. In debt fund, generally you will not have increase in the value of the base principal. So, you may get it right once in a while, but that's the wrong thing to do. Will you ever go for a heart operation to a person who is not a qualified doctor? Then why do you invest based on somebody who's not actually qualified to advise you on your investment here? A lot of people do that. Just think, no? Pardon? No. So I can't give investment advice until unless I am registered with SEBI. Only SEBI registered people can give investment advice. That's it. Otherwise nobody can tell you that you should invest here or you should invest here. Only SEBI registered people can. You need to be very careful. So let me tell you, I'll give you an example. I'm not a fan of life insurance. Not a fan of life insurance at all. See, insurance products, like for example, in my perspective, first of all, the return on life insurance is pathetic. It cannot exceed 4 or 5%. Cannot. Secondly, you rather at young age buy a term life. Costs much less. Yes, the money goes away, but it costs. If you look at it over a longer term perspective, life insurance doesn't make sense at all. In some areas it may make sense, but I'm not a fan because the rate of return is too low. See, what does the life insurance contract stand for actually? You paid 100, okay? They also take out a term life out of that 100 and they put a balance in as an investment. That's what they do. There is no difference. So what you do is, if you are paying 100 to a life insurance company and they are using 20 as term and 80 as life insurance, why don't you buy 20 directly as term and invest 20 yourself? It comes to the same thing. See, psychologically we say, "Arey yaar, 20 to gaya." Yes.
It's like buying a single product to meet all the needs.
Correct.
So basically it is good at nothing. It is jackpot but master of none. So we cannot expect it to excel in any of the condition because the kind of security or the cover that these fixed returns or these gives, it's nowhere comparative to the investment.
So I agree with you as a general rule, but there could be exceptions. But yes, the general, whether that's correct or wrong, I'm not a fan of it. That's my personal view. I mean, I rather go in for term insurance.
You will take care of. Similarly, you say that also now we should not look at our kid because they may or may not look at that. But may I ask you one question which I never could find anywhere, neither in YouTube, nowhere. Should I invest on my son or should I invest on a property where it gives me a return?
So, risk management.
Thank
So no, so it's not a, what you have to do is basically, actually I learned this from my son. You know, my son is studying in the US. And
in fact, the cost of bringing up a
Yeah,
kid
yeah.
is almost, I've seen on the some document, is 1.5 to 2 crore rupees.
I agree.
So, and if they go for higher studies, the more. So, I think Gujarati people will get a better, I think.
No, so you know, it's no different than any other investment decision that you take. See, you are, what do you want? You want your son, your progeny to be successful. Whether you want them to take care of you want them to be successful. Now, if you read MBAs in the US, there are various studies that have been done, is not a good return on investment unless you go to Ivy League. Ivy League. Not a good return on investment. Sorry? No, not only study loan. What they did was, they actually compared that if you were from a non-Ivy League, after 5 years of graduation, how much money do you make if you are from a non-Ivy League and you are from a Ivy League, as compared to people who've not done MBA. So people who have spent money on MBA from a non-Ivy League made actually less money who had not done MBA. So it's purely a, like you are evaluating whether to invest in bonds or in equity, it's exactly the same. So you have to look at it to see, if you put in 2 crore rupees, what is it going to get him in return? It's the same. So basically what you're doing is, you're doing a risk evaluation. कि अगर इधर पैसा डालूंगा कि उसको इतना बनना चाहिए, whether he makes it or you make it, that's a separate issue. But ultimately it's a decision that you should have a maximum return on investment. I was telling you, my son is working in the US, and when he got his first job, he was not very happy with the salary. And what he came and told me, he says, Dad, your return on investment in terms of what you spent on me is pathetic. I mean, after whatever 3 years or 4 years of studying and 2 years of working, your return on investment is 2%. So what I told him, boss, is that I'm still in an investment mode. Hopefully that investment will be up. But that's a gamble that you have to take. Sorry. Any more questions?
A lot of information is there on YouTube, but a lot of time, as you said, influencers are bombarded, like a lot of bombardment is there from the influencers. So which is a legit like YouTube channel or website, or where we can get a legit advice to go towards the financial education or the knowledge, to gain the financial education?
So what you need to do is, you have very renowned personalities. You have renowned personalities, you have bankers, you have wealth managers. You listen to those. See, what you need to do is, initially, you must listen to people who are credible, because you need the right information. Okay? After you know what is right, you will be able to determine what is wrong. So what you need to do is go to credible people. You have all the banks, they have wealth managers, they have seminars, they have YouTube, these things. So you need to go and listen to talks from credible personalities. Now, how do you get credible? You have names, yeah. You have big banks and big wealth advisors and things like that. Huh? Sorry? I don't know who Utpal Kesi is, but there are many. There are many. So basically, you need to look at see. If you go to a Marriott or if you go to an Oberoi's, you know what kind of service you're going to get. Marriott and Oberoi's actually represents what? It communicates to you that the beds will be clean, AC will be working, people will say hi to you, everything will be nice. Okay. So similarly, what you need to do is you need to hear people who Yeah, reputed people. Any more questions?
which help in understanding the act, in implementation of the act, and finally, at the time of assessment as well, if and when someone's case is picked up for scrutiny, right? Yeah. So Section 4 of the Income Tax Act talks about the chargeability of income tax. Sorry? It's happening. It's fluctuating, but it's okay. I think he's trying to figure it out. Okay. If not for Section 4, none of the income would actually be governed under the Income Tax Act. What Section 4 essentially says is that Section 4 empowers, the different provisions under the Income Tax Act. The income that you have earned, what and when and how will it be chargeable to income tax? And it classifies about salary, capital gains, rental from house property, income from other sources, etc. Then Section 5 talks about the scope of the scope of income. Like, for example, if you are if you are a resident or a not resident, then what kind of income will get taxed in India in your hands, right? So for that, we need to understand the residential status ka definition first. So we'll go there and we'll again come back to this slide. So Section 6 talks about the residential status, which essentially has two broad categories and then one subcategory. So broad categories are, of course, resident in India, tax resident in India, tax non-resident in India, right? And also in resident, there is a carve out for returning Indians, which is called as a resident but not ordinarily resident, and we'll go through it, what it means. Section 9 is again important for those who claim that they are non-residents from an Indian income tax point of view. Section 9 lists down what all types of income that a non-resident has earned, which will be deemed to accrue or arise in India. Now, what does deemed to accrue or arise in India mean? So, for example, some income which you have earned in India or received in India will, of course, always be taxed in India, right? So, let's say you may be sitting in US or Singapore, but you have shares of some listed company out here in India, and you sell those shares and you have earned gains on it. India always has a right to tax on it because India is a source country for that profit or the gains that you have earned. Yeah.
Provided that gains are in the tax bracket. If it is not within the tax bracket, then
Yeah, that's a different point. Yeah, but the income is sourced in India. The tax brackets today are X amount. Tomorrow it could be X minus something. It could be X plus something. But the principle is that this income is sourced in India. So India has a right to tax. Now the tax slab or that bracket is whether India chooses to chooses its right to tax or not, right? That's why they have those slabs. Okay, but Section 9 goes beyond, and it says that not only the income which has accrued or arisen in India, not only the income which has been received in India, but this is a deeming fiction, that we will deem that this income has deemed to accrue or arise in India or deemed to be received in India. Okay, so that again, for mostly it applies to corporates. Insofar as individuals are concerned, and the and all of you are concerned, it's essentially only salary, right? Section 9(1)(2) deals with salary for services rendered by non-resident individuals. So they say that if the services are rendered in India, then India has a right to tax, even though your employment may be with a foreign company. You may primarily be exercising your employment outside India, but even if a part of your employment is said to be in India, then for that extent, so for example, you are primarily based outside, but for 4 months in a particular year you have come to India, then India will have a right to tax on that 4 months. Now there are ways and means to avoid that as well, because most of the countries, India has more than 90 double tax avoidance agreements. And a double tax avoidance agreement is something where two governments will come together and say that, okay, even I want to tax this and even you want to tax this because of the domestic tax law prevailing in both the countries. And then they have agreed upon something which is given in that, we call it DTAA, which is a double taxation avoidance agreement. So then one has to read the act first. If it is taxable under section 9, then you go to the DTAA and see that whether you can take any benefit out of it or not. But primarily for this crowd, salary is essentially the one, which impacts the most. Apart from that, other income like a dividend, interest, capital gains could also be a critical factor. There again, once we need to have a look at, the domestic tax law, and then go and have a look at the DTAA as well. Yeah. So before we come to understanding that for which residential status, which kind of income are taxed in India, first let us understand how the residential status is determined, because even when earlier today in the morning we came, the questions were primarily surrounding the residential status only. And this, we believe, based on our discussions, has been one of the contentious issues, which the seafarers have had to deal with. So section 6 defines the residential status for an individual. There are two conditions given. The first condition, but not 182 yet, then you evaluate the second conjuncting condition as well. That have I spent 365 days or more in the last 4 financial years? So even if let's say 60 days in the current plus 365 days in the last 4 years, even then I'll become a tax resident in India. Okay. Under Income Tax Act, there is a section and every section has a condition or a proviso. So the beneficial proviso given over here is, so if you look at the second bullet, that for any Indian citizen, okay, who goes out on employment, or any individual who goes on an Indian ship as a part of the crew, which impacts almost everyone over here, then this 60 gets replaced by 182. So now again, for your determination of residential status, you just need to first evaluate whether I've spent 182 days or not. The second condition for you guys, it becomes theoretical, so to say. Because if I've spent 182 days, I am a resident. Then I don't need to go back and see whether I've spent 365 days in the last 4 years or not. Okay. So the primary condition which becomes for seafarers, okay, who are going as a crew member on an Indian ship, is 182 days spent in the current year or not. Right. Before I go to the other part, I'll just answer your question. So as sir mentioned, in the last budget, the finance minister had promised that the tax law has become lot of, with a lot of provisos, sections, etc. coming in. So it has become complex. So now what they have assured is that they will amend this again or come up with a new direct tax code. And in that they are possibly going to have a special kind of a regime for seafarer taxation, or they may simplify the number of days. And when I say simplify means make it further more. So instead of 182, it may be 210, 240, whatever it will be. We don't know. But that we have to wait. And if let's say the budget is generally on February 1st, then it will not become applicable straight away. It is generally a proposal, then they will ask for stakeholders, comments, etc. and all, and then it will get finalized. It has to also pass the parliamentary procedure. So likely from 1/4/25 or maybe 1/4/26. But whatever it is, once we have to look at the fine print, and then we can see that what are the number of days, etc. that the government has planned. Now, if you only look at section 6, this has been the case for ages, okay? So maybe some of the younger seafarers would have simply heard from their seniors, you have spent less than 182 days in India now, don't worry, you are a non-resident, okay? Your income will not be charged to tax in India. But what has happened over the last 4 or 5 years, okay, there is a new section which has been introduced under the tax law, which is section 6(1)(a). Now what this section essentially says is, if you claim you are a non-resident, okay, in India, which means you have to be a resident somewhere else, you can't be a nomad, you can't be not paying tax anywhere in the world, okay? So which means you are a resident of someplace else. Now what this section says is that if by virtue of your residence in that other country, but you are not being liable to pay tax over there, right? Then as long as you are an Indian citizen, India will still continue to have some rights, which we'll discuss, on your income. So to give an example, people used to travel to Dubai, UAE for example, because UAE till today does not have personal income tax, okay? And without section 6(1)(a), okay, you ignore the second part. You spend less than 182 days in India, you are non-resident in India, so only your India sourced income gets taxed in India, which could be your capital gains, interest, rent, dividend, etc. But then any other income which you earn, for example salary probably in your case, or maybe any other investments that you do even outside India, all those kind of income would absolutely go, without getting taxed anywhere in the world. India though will no longer have a right, because as per the first part you will be a non-resident, but Dubai does not have personal income taxes. And again, as a broader concept, as an international tax principle, all countries understand that at least a taxpayer needs to pay tax somewhere, be it in country A or country B, but it should get taxed somewhere. So that is why India has come out with this provision. It has come out around 5 years back. It says that if an Indian citizen, he claims that he is a resident of any other country by virtue of his physical presence or domicile or any other reason, right, but he is not getting taxed over there, okay, then they have put one more condition, that for such kind of individuals, okay, if their India sourced income is more than INR 15 lakhs, if their India sourced income is more than INR 15 lakhs, they will never become an absolute non-resident ever. They will always be regarded as a resident, but not ordinary resident. So not a complete resident also, that your global income gets taxed in India, right? Not a non-resident that only your India sourced income gets taxed in India, but you will come in that middle bucket, which is a resident, but not ordinarily resident. Now, what are the difference in the income, which typically gets taxed, right, in the case of the 3 categories of the residential status? So if you are a resident, right, that ROR means resident and ordinary resident, which means someone like me who is in India, 365 days a year, for example. My global income is taxed in India. Even if let's say I am trading in US stocks, I am keeping the money also over there, still I need to pay tax in India. So for an individual like me, my global income is chargeable to tax in India because I am a tax resident of India. Okay. That's why if you look at the first line, whether it accrues arises in India, outside India, whether I receive it in India, whether I receive it outside India, anything that I earn is chargeable to tax in India. So that's the first part. Now we'll jump to the third part first, which is the non-resident. If a non-resident has income accruing or arising or deemed to accrue or arise in India, then it is chargeable to tax in India. But if it is accruing outside India, then it is not chargeable to tax in India. India can't have a right on that to tax for a non-resident. If the income is directly received in India for the first time, okay, and this is important as we go ahead, we have put up some examples, and also when we do the interplay of tax and FEMA, this will become important for us to understand as seafarers. If I am receiving the income for the first time in India, it is chargeable to tax in India. As per the the basic reading of the law. There may be extra circulars, etc. to help avoid the tax burden, but as the law stands. And if I have received outside India, of course I am a non-resident, so it can't be charged to tax in India.
Excuse me, what is the meaning of first time in India?
So for example, you have a property outside India which you have leased it to someone, and so you will be getting lease rentals. Now instead of your lease rentals getting deposited in an overseas bank account first, and then when you bring it to India, you are bringing your capital to India. But if let's say your tenant gives rent to you directly in your Indian bank account, then it is said to be received for the first time because it's coming from a third party to your account. So that is what is called as received for the first time. Now in your case, that example is salary. If your employer pays you, let's say, in your bank account outside India, okay, then of course it is not received in India if you are a non-resident. That is why.
But seafarers, we don't have account outside India.
I know you have NRI, so I am coming to that. So most of the seafarers' ka salary will get deposited in NRI. Now technically this is a bank account in India. Okay, NRI bank account is a bank account in India. Only RBI has given some relaxations to that bank account. And that is why we have a circular from the Income Tax Administration, which is the CBDT, to say that as long as you are a non-resident, salary received in an individual's NRI bank account will not be considered to be received in India. And that is why, by virtue of that, that's why I mentioned that on the plain reading of law, that income is chargeable to tax in India, but there are circulars and certain other beneficial, things which are there, and that's why NREs, a seafarer who is a non-resident receiving salary in his NRE bank account will typically not get taxed in India. NRO ma tax so that's why. So NRO, NRE, everything by default is taxable because they all are bank accounts in India. But there is only one relaxation given by CBDT that salary received in NRE will not be considered to be received in India.
One more thing I want to ask. For example, if I am taking my salary in US dollars, for example, if I am on board, I am taking cash advance. Say for a big amount, I take cash advance. And I spend that money abroad. I am not taking that money back to India. For example, I am taking cash advance on board, which is a part of my salary, which I already earned. Yeah. And then I am spending the entire amount abroad only.
Right.
To purchase something for myself or for any investment. I am just spending that amount. I am not bringing it back to the country. So will India consider that I have earned that money? Or is it my immediate income if it is not coming to my NRI account?
So here this is one issue, of course. Apart from this as well, there are a couple of issues in this. And for this, we also need to first understand the definition of resident, non-resident under FEMA. So,
Kartik, let me explain. It was very simple. See, what is tax? Tax for non-salaried people is basic economic principle. Basic economic.
Income less expenditure. And then you have various, but let's go to basics. Tax is payable on income. Income. For business, it is revenue less expenditure. For salary, it is not revenue less expenditure. for salary. It is not salary. तो क्या करेंगे, मैं आपको हायर करूंगा, आपकी 10 लाख की सैलरी है, मैं ऐसे करूंगा, मैं आपको बोलूंगा आपको 1 लाख रुपया दूंगा, बाकी जितने भी खर्चे हैं ना वो मैं बेयर करूंगा। इसका मतलब ये है कि आपकी 1 लाख की सैलरी टैक्स होगी कि 10 लाख की सैलरी टैक्स होगी? 10 लाख की। So the first basic principle is your gross salary is taxable. अगर वो सैलरी इंडिया में टैक्सेबल है, then it is the gross salary, not the net salary. नहीं तो कोई भी एम्प्लॉयर, सभी एम्प्लॉयर यही बोलेंगे कि यार मैं आपका 10 लाख का सैलरी है, मैं आपको सिर्फ 2 लाख कैश दे दूंगा, बाकी मैं 8 लाख का आपका बीवी का खर्चा, वो ज्वेलरी, ये वो सब मैं खर्चा करूंगा। So I hope that gives you the answer.
So why I was saying that we'll address it later, but now because we've started discussing, so let me just jump. So please bear with me and we'll connect this again when we discuss FEMA as well. If you are a resident under FEMA, you cannot take cash outside India. If you are a resident, as per the definition of FEMA, you cannot receive cash outside India, even from your employer. It has to be deposited in your Indian bank account and it has to come back to India. So that's point number one. That's why I said there are fewer. If you are a resident under FEMA. Under FEMA, I'm not saying income tax. So that's why at that time I mentioned there are a couple of other. Second, if you are a non-resident, separate scenario, if you are a non-resident from an Indian income tax point of view, then that salary which you mentioned doesn't get taxed in India. That's why Sanjay ji mentioned that if that salary is chargeable to tax in India, then it will be gross salary. But if you are a non-resident under income tax, then that salary only doesn't get charged in India because you are abroad, you are sailing in foreign waters, you have rendered services over there, right? Finally, if you are a resident and you receive in cash, or then the gross salary will be chargeable to tax in India. या तो अभी तक तो सर मैं इनकम टैक्स के रेसिडेंशियल स्टेटस के डेफिनेशन पे हूँ, इसके बाद वील गो टू फेमा.
So let me just interject here. Let me give you one this thing. As far as income tax is concerned, income tax is for taxability. Very simple. Income tax says whether the income that you earn is taxable or not taxable. So you have to determine taxable and how much is taxable. So income tax decides that. As far as exchange control is concerned, it determines whether you can keep your money outside India or you can get your money inside India. That is number one. In case of, let's say, NRI account and FCNRB accounts, it also says there is a linkage between the two. Is that as far as NRI accounts are concerned, if you are a non-resident under FEMA, then you are not taxable under income tax. But these two are two separate rooms. One decides what is taxable and how much is taxable. Second decides whether you can keep your money outside India or you have to get it back to India. And then there is somewhere an interlinkage between the two.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 minute. Yeah, please.
This thing about 15 lakhs, what you have said.
Yeah.
Suppose a seafarer who is an NRI in a particular financial year, his Indian income goes to say 20 lakhs. Does he become a resident?
No, he will become a resident but not ordinary resident. I was
Foreign income is still not taxable.
correct. Only income from any business control or any profession that is set up. So profession again for individuals like you may be difficult because you are already engaged in the in rendering services as a seafarer. But if let's say there is any business, and that business, please don't think of it as a trading business only. For example, even if you are doing futures and options trading or a commodity trading on the stock exchange, all those are also regarded as deemed businesses under the income tax law. So those kind of things will also then start getting taxed.
So I have one request. Let's just go through this because until and unless you don't understand what income tax says and what FEMA says, you will have questions relating to FEMA from an income tax viewpoint and income tax from and vice versa, like you read that. So just bear with us. Let us go through that. Hopefully you'll get further confused, and then when you get further confused, then we will unravel your confusion.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, coming back. So, NR also we discussed. Now for RNOR, as we answered to the query raised, India sourced income, of course, taxed in India. Income received in India, of course, taxed in India. Now, insofar as income which is deemed to accrue, arise and received outside India will not be chargeable to tax in India, even in the second row, RNOR. Wait, just hold on, let me complete, just hold on. Now, insofar as the RNOR individual is concerned, if their India sourced income is more than INR 15 lakhs, okay, then if there is any business that they are doing outside India also, okay, that income will also get charged to tax in India. So that is that incremental income which gets taxed for them in India as compared to a non-resident. Okay. Now that business should be controlled from India. Now if you are an individual and you are doing, stock options or trading of options or future and options, derivatives, commodity trading, let's say on a US stock exchange or a Singapore stock exchange, of course it's you only who is controlling it. So those kind of things have started to now getting, captured in if an individual is RNOR. And that RNOR, as we discussed, will get triggered typically for an Indian citizen and someone like a seafarer who may be spending more than 182 days outside India. Okay, but because he is based in a country like Dubai or any other country which does not have, personal taxation, and that's why as long as this 15 lakhs income criteria is met, they will always be a resident, but not ordinary resident, and not a non-resident.
So, in simple terms, under the Indian Income Tax Act, there are three terminologies. There are three rooms. One is non-resident, one is not ordinary resident, one is resident. The resident room is the worst one, especially as far as people here are concerned who are partly working outside and partly working in. Now, non-resident but not ordinary resident comes in when you have more than 15 lakhs of Indian income. Now, most of us, I don't think, will have a trading business or any business in India. But, you could have rental. That's India. I was just talking to somebody outside that seafarers have this particular affinity of buying properties. Now, what happens is, question that comes up is if you've given the 4 or 5 properties on rent and your annual income is more than 50 lakhs, then you're likely to get caught within that Indian income, 15 lakhs. And non-resident is the best box, provided you qualify as a non-resident, because then if you earn income outside India which is not received in India, then we will clarify what is approval and being to accrue. Kartik will clarify. That is the best box to be in. So, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Apologies, I keep interrupting you.
No problem.
अभी 38 years marriage हो गए तो वहाँ पे वो कहाँ करा नहीं?
हाँ.
So accrual and receive में क्या फर्क है? Accrual and receive.
Accrual is much more wider than receive. As you said that the source. Now, if you are holding shares of an Indian company here, then it will automatically be, so it is out of the source, the shares are in India of an Indian company. So that will get taxed. Receipt is the subsequent.
Sir, I'll give him an example. You have sold your shares to me, okay? We have agreed on a consideration. I have to pay you an X amount, okay? We have signed the agreement. I don't pay you, but the sales consideration has agreed to you, has accrued upon you. So even to that extent, that income will be chargeable to tax in India, even if tomorrow I don't pay you that money. Accrued is a wider.
Receive has already happened.
Yeah. No. So what happens is, for individuals, there are two methods of accounting which you can follow. One is a cash system of accounting and one is a accrual system of accounting. Accrual means what we discussed, right? That income is due to you also and even accrued to you. But to make our life simple, income tax And generally, for individuals across the globe, cash method is allowed to be followed, which means whatever you have received, only offer that much for tax for now. So what happens even to practically in your bank statements at the year end, even if the interest has not been given to you, bank will still give you a TDS certificate saying that we have deducted so much tax, right, and paid to the government. But what we do is we don't offer that for income. We might carry forward that TDS to the next year. So in year 3, in your example, when you actually receive the entire interest, you will have that TDS which has been brought forward, plus that year's, of course, TDS which would be deducted by the bank, and then you offer the entire income and the entire TDS in one go. Okay?
But, I mean, you can always follow cash basis of accounting, but if you look at it, generally, majority, so let's say you have a 3-year FD. You receive every year the bank deducts TDS. Do you have the option of actually offering it at the end of the 3 years, or do you have the option of offering, or do you offer that interest income on an accrual basis every now and then? You need to be a little careful. Like for example, salary. Let's say March का salary तो आपको April में आता है. So will you offer it to tax in March, or will you offer it to tax in the next year? Now the law says no, it's based on accrual. Whereas if it's business, it could be cash. So you have to take a decision. But Kartik, if I'm right, I mean, at least I do. I offer my interest on accrual basis because it gets usually complicated. कि अगर 3 साल के बाद तुम ऑफर करोगे, तुमको सारा क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, वो गवर्नमेंट के पास जाओ. So majority of the people, Kartik, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as FD interests are concerned, are offered to tax on an accrual basis. Although you have an option.
You have an option. Correct. You have an option insofar as this interest is concerned. Okay. Capital gains also, as I told him, once accrued, it is due. So that's an individual's call. That's an.
No, it's practice. It's no saving of tax.
There is no saving of tax.
See, when bank will deduct tax, correct, they will reflect it in that TDS return. Now you have all your forms, the forms where you can see when you vote, correct, 26 years, they will show that there is a TDS happened. Now we have not received and you have not offered it to your income. So immediately a notice will come that there is, you have this TDS has happened, where is the income that you have shown. So it's better, it all depends, there are certain practical, at times you have to take practical decisions. Okay? If this is a TDS, let me offer it so everything is sorted out. Otherwise, what will happen? You will continue, you will not offer. You will continue with your TDS because you will claim that TDS in that 3rd year. So you can't claim refund this year by not offering next. The TDS has to be claimed only against the income which is offered to next.
So this is simple.
So these are kind of, yeah.
No. So ये 3 साल का तो ठीक है. Let's say आपका 7 साल का FD है. You will have to keep a track for 7 years for to claim offer it to tax and then claim a credit for the 7 years which is real. तो 7 साल का कौन याद है? पिछले साल का याद नहीं रहता तो 7 साल कौन करेगा? So I mean it's all individual situation, but sometimes you have to take a practical view. Otherwise you will have to hire a CA. You will have to तो जितना आप बचाएंगे वो CA ले जाएगा.
Sir, this 15 lakh income in India, to manage that, a person can transfer the property to his spouse, and then he can still manage. Is that allowed?
So
there are some clubbing provisions also under the income tax. So one has to be careful. It's not just that you just transfer it to the spouse. Spouse is highly litigating. Kids, it's still something possible.
Kids and parents.
You can look at it. Kids and parents, but anything, because what happens is that for without consideration, if you transfer it to the spouse, so she starts earning income, right? Which clearly shows that that was taxable in your hands. By transferring it to her, you have actually avoided tax. Then it will get taxed in your hands. Actually, it will get taxed in your hands. It's a clubbing provision.
So there are specific provisions which say that, as sir mentioned, for an inadequate consideration or for no consideration, if you transfer an asset to your spouse and the spouse earns income from that asset, then that income will get taxed in the transferor's hands only. That is the law.
The provision of 15 lakhs can be evaded then, because you can't become an NRI with only rates if you have more than 15 15 lakh. For that purpose, can it be used?
No, because that income will get deemed in your hands and then it forms part of your income.
For the child, it is still okay.
For, major, I mean, 18 plus kid. Because again, minor kid, then again the clubbing provisions apply. Yeah. So just to recapture, we've discussed this slide. As we had discussed, ROR global income, which is a resident's global income, will be taxed. For RNOR and non-resident, we have discussed that income sourced in India or income received in India will be taxed, and we have given some illustrative examples which we believe will generally be applicable to the people in this room. Bank interest is always sourced in India. There is only one exception, is that NRI account पे जो interest मिलता है, that is exempt. Again, by default it is taxable, but there's a specific provision which says or which exempts it, and that's why it is exempt. Capital gains on sale of assets in India, and this capital gains could be on anything: shares, securities, immovable property, etc. Rental from immovable property if you have a house property in India, and income from business control or profession which is set up in India, but of course the income from that business is emanating outside India. So that also will get taxed in India, but that is only in the case of resident but not ordinary resident, as we have discussed. Right?
Kartik, I just had one question. So, currently 2 house properties are not taxed.
Yes.
Right? 2 house properties, self-occupied house properties are not subject to tax. We have a third one, even if you don't rent it out, there is a deemed income and it gets taxed. Now the question is, Kartik, will the deemed income be considered for a part of 15 lakhs?
Yes.
Yes. So if you have 3 houses which are neither one of them are let out, for 2 there is no problem. What the law says is कि अगर तुमने बेचा भी नहीं है और तुमने रेंट पे अगर नहीं भी दिया, we will assume that you are earning rent.
Only for in excess of 2 houses.
Excess of 2 houses. So from the 3rd house onwards, we will assume that you are earning rent. Now I was just talking to, he just gave me a very valid piece of information that people in the shipping industry are very fond of owning property. Now you need to take into consideration, if you have more than 2 properties, and even if you don't give it out on rent, you are going to wind up paying taxes. So what you have to do is you have to consider the outgo on an annual basis on account of taxes and evaluate whether it makes sense to buy a house, because that becomes a cost. Sorry. And mind you, that will be considered for the purpose of determining whether you have 15 lakh income.
Sir, but then suppose the seafarer buys properties. 2 properties in his name, 2 properties in the name of the wife, 2 properties in the name of the son.
So if it buys in the name of the wife, it will get clubbed, that will be considered. If you have a major son, not a problem. If you have a major daughter, not a problem.
You can first transfer the funds to them, show it as a gift.
Yeah.
Then they buy the property in their name. That's how then it will have to be structured.
But then, I have a fundamental principle in life. That's my personal view. Is that, in my view, till you are alive, you should have everything in the name of yourself and your wife. That's what I believe in. That's my personal view. When my father was old, he wanted to transfer everything in my name. And what I told him, I said, what if I turn around tomorrow? Where are you going to go? Do you want to be like this or do you want to be like this? Do you want to ask me for money or do you want to give me money? So my personal view is that when you are living, do not transfer money in the name of your, unless, if you have 100 and you transfer 5, 10, 15, 20, it doesn't really make a difference. But if you have 100, don't transfer 40, 50 to your kids.
I think the underlying point is to save on tax. Okay, the principle only should not get lost. That's the simple.
So don't transfer, but that NRI as a whole, the will.
Yeah, there must be a will. Everybody must have a will. Everybody. Now 1 minute. Do you have a will? हाँ. ये देख लो. Unfortunately, doctors cannot treat themselves. Doctors cannot treat themselves. You know, we preach all these things, but unfortunately we don't do it ourselves. Can you imagine? Yeah. Everybody must have a will. You must have a will. There are 2-3 things which in my view are very, very essential. Is that number one, you must have a will. You must have one piece of paper which actually documents what is where as far as your wife is concerned. You must have what you call nominations in your account. You must have nomination with your flat society. So these things are very, very essential, because if you are not there tomorrow, your progeny will have to run helter-skelter from pillar to post unnecessarily. So these are few little things which are must. Medical insurance. So one is you need to have a will. You need to make sure that all your nominations are in place. Huh? Now more are allowed. Now more are allowed. But nominations are there. Now, when you know, even when you do your nominations, then you start thinking, if you have 3 kids, kisko doon, kaise doon. But those are things that have to be resolved. You have to think through. I come back to a very simple example. Is that अगर आपको हार्ट का ऑपरेशन कराने का है, put it at that level, हार्ट का ऑपरेशन कराने का है, you can't sit down and wait, करूं या नहीं करूं या नहीं करूं या नहीं करूं. It's a do or die situation. Put this as a do or die situation. Your nominations must be in place. Then thirdly, you must have medical insurance. Must. And fourth in my priority is that if you can, you must take out a term insurance. Doesn't cost that much. Doesn't cost that much. It'll help your family a lot. Obviously, if you are afford, again, see, this is the advantage. If you are 45 plus, the term insurance becomes too bloody expensive. It's, you know, it's not worth it. So, you know, one insurance guy came to me, he says, why don't you take out insurance at the age of, I think about 50 or 55 and hours. I said, boss, mera to sirf abhi 5 saal reh gaya earning. It doesn't make sense for me to take out term insurance. Kya fayda hai? Sirf 4-5 saal hi bache na. I'd rather take out term insurance on my son and my daughter's this thing. Now, you know, sometimes when you make these statements, it may become slightly philosophically, but you got to be completely dispassionate about all these things. Yeah. When unfortunate event happens, it doesn't ask you whether it is philosophically right or not. So you have to do these things. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Sorry. Yeah, you can. Investment is self-insurance, no? Hi. No, the only difference is, see, when you start young, no, the expense compared to the gain, there is a huge upside. I mean, at the age of 24, 25, you pay some 300 rupees a month or 400 or 1000 rupees a month or 2000 and you get a crore. Whereas now, you'll have to pay some 40,000 rupees a month or 50,000 rupees a month at the age of 55. So it's all basically a risk-reward ratio. Or expense reward ratio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No. Sir, what happens, let's say for example, you have one house and you have not let it out. Logically, you are staying in it, so no problem. You have a second house also. That is lying idle. Government says, okay, no problem. One you are staying, one is lying idle. Now let's say you buy a third house in your name only. Now what the government says is, okay boss, for the first 2 houses, I'm not going to ask you whether you are yourself staying in it, you have let it out, earning rental income, I don't care. But for the third house, you tell me either you should have let it out or else I will deal.
No, my question is not that. My question is different. What do you mean by 2 houses? Suppose I have 2 flats of 1 bedroom each, combine them together, will it be considered one or two?
So there is a lot of litigation on this.
Yes.
You still have, in all record purposes, there are two tax or one.
Okay, thank you.
For example, it's an adjoining, you are just breaking up.
Sir, so like you, lot of other people have also thought about this. Okay, and these matters have travelled up to courts.
That's it, exactly. I'm talking the legal point.
So what Sanjay bhai mentioned is about share certificates. How is the conveyance done? Are these two agreements, one agreement, etc. You know, the courts have also given emphasis whether there is only one entry to the house, only one kitchen in the house.
No, one kitchen can be there.
No, I'm saying so. Sir, ultimately, see, when it goes before a court, then with the law, you also have to marry your facts. Then each set of facts will be different, and that's why the outcome is different.
Okay, my second question maybe is the legal point basically. Suppose I purchase two houses in my name, and also purchase two houses in my wife's name. Okay, so is it taxable as for the concern? So as for the income tax is concerned, I'll divorce my wife and she's become an individual. Can it be tax free in that case? And,
When the divorce event happens also matters, no?
and then again
If you divorce, then you give, then the question comes how she gets the gift.
alimony.
That itself is taxable.
No, alimony is not a taxable, I understand.
Correct. So any arrangement that you do with the partner with whom you are divorcing, and there is a separation deed, separation agreement that you enter, that is not chargeable to tax. I agree.
Okay, I'm coming to exactly.
No, let me give you a very simple three
examples. Yes, thank you.
If you and your wife are living happily, which is, I don't know whether that's a hypothetical statement or not, then if you buy the houses in her name, that if that income is taxable, it will be clubbed with you. Very simple. Okay. Second scenario is that you gave her, when you were living together, those two houses, and then you get divorced later, and upon divorce then it will become her income because she's no longer your spouse. Now there are various permutations and combinations in between, but these are two. So then again what happens is that you have given the money, you have given her the flat when she was a spouse, then she became an independent person, then she became forget about that. Let's take a simple example. No? You give a gift to a person, who's not connected with you. आपने इनको 2 house दे दिए, तो gift tax लगेगा, it'll become income. Now, if he becomes a relative of yours again, you gave him the money when it was independent, so it should not get clubbed. But if you have given the houses when she was your spouse and then she became an independent person, and then again she became a spouse back again, I don't know. I've not come across situation.
Sir, what will happen is that it all depends upon the time, etc. See, department will look at it that itself your first thing giving divorce was actually not right.
वो tax planning के लिए गया है.
Sir.
That's exactly, that is my question. Can I do my tax planning in this way? That was the thing.
Sir, एक minute. So tax में ना 3 चीज होती है, deviating from the subject a little bit. There is tax planning, okay, which is perfectly fine. For example, you pay PPF and claim a deduction under 80C. That is tax planning. There is tax evasion, which is completely illegal, which is unaccounted money, etc. बीच में ना sir, there is something called as tax avoidance. And tax avoidance है ना, वो ना black ना white है, वो grey area है. अब morally तो वो wrong है, within the law बैठ सकता है, उसके लिए facts देखना पड़ता है, and finally some authority takes a view. अगर उसने आपके फेवर में लिया तो वो पर्टिकुलर केस लीगली भी बैठ गया, बट नहीं बैठा तो देन इट इज मॉरली तो रॉन्ग ही होता है टैक्स अवॉइडेंस, फिर लीगली भी रॉन्ग हो जाएगा. एंड ऑफ कोर्स व्हाट मैटर्स इज लीगली क्या आउटकम आ रहा है. एंड इसके लिए है ना सर, डिपार्टमेंट ने एक्ट में जैसे क्लबिंग प्रोविजन है ना, वो भी एक टाइप का एंटी अब्यूजिव प्रोविजन बोलते हैं हम लोग, या एंटी अवॉइडेंस प्रोविजन बोलते हैं. बिकॉज जैसा आपने बोला कि भाई मेरे पास तीसरा घर है तो मैं वाइफ को गिफ्ट कर दूंगा, तो ये सब टाइप के checks and balances already रखे हुए हैं.
And what about the joint, if you take a flat in a joint name? Who's the
Immovable property में sir generally अगर authorities के सामने matter जाता है, they will not go by the name what is written in the agreement. They will always see who has paid how much money.
So for administrative convenience or whatever, that I should not have it in one name, the कानून के problem हुए. So you can actually take it into, but the entire money will have been paid by you. So you will be, say for example, you have taken it on an housing loan. You have paid EMI and you are paying interest, right? Though the wife's name is the second name joint owner, you can claim that interest deduction against your income.
Sir क्या होता है ना, because let's say upon the event, okay, हाउस को कन्वे करना एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, बिकॉज फॉर एग्जांपल इन महाराष्ट्र यू नीड अ कोर्ट ऑर्डर, प्रोबेट लगता है, इट बिकम्स अ वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड प्रोसेस. सेकेंडली अगर शेयर सर्टिफिकेट में, सोसाइटी के शेयर सर्टिफिकेट में सिर्फ वाइफ या किड जिसका भी नाम है, देयर इज ऑलवेज अ चांस ऑफ लिटिगेशन, बिकॉज सम अदर रिलेटिव में कम एंड से दैट नो मेरा शेयर है एटसेट्रा. So that is why, as Sanjay ji mentioned, for administrative convenience we put one name. Okay.
No, that's correct. That is what I'm saying.
Income tax authority purchase करने के टाइम पे या purchase consideration, भले वो खुद के पैसे से लोन से, किसने अल्टीमेटली वो पे किया है ना, उसको ज़्यादा वेटेज देते हैं.
और उसी के बेसिस में आपका टैक्स भी आएगा. मतलब सपोज यू गेट द रेंट फ्रॉम दिस, whoever has paid the house, basically that is the thing.
और
he will actually offer it to tax. You cannot divide. So as I said, because if you want to divide, okay, say the wife, if it was to be divided and if the spouse is falling below the threshold, it means she will not pay tax. Means you will pay only on half of the rent you will pay.
So the underlying principle is very simple, is that
artificial shifting of income without any
is
tax avoidance.
So अगर आपने पैसा दिया, whether through loan or otherwise, whatever is the proportion that you have paid, that income will get linked to that proportion. So जैसे आपने, वाइफ ने 10 लाख की प्रॉपर्टी है, वाइफ ने 1 लाख दिया through either loan or whatever it is, or her money, and if you earn 1 lakh rupees rent, 90% will get, because you paid 90%, 90% will be your income, 10% will be her income.
Let me put it, it will be correct to say that 10,000 should be taxed in her hands and 19 yours.
Correct.
Let me put it in that.
No, earlier you had said that if I give say 10 lakh in cash for my
अभी we will continue after tea, we will continue after tea.
वो क्लबिंग
चाय किसी को नहीं चाहिए यार, सबको.
We will continue after tea, sir.
This is how we see, अपने सरकारी में बैठ के ना, regulator always think out of the place to catch the thief. Should I invest in a kid or should I invest in a house?
Hello. Test.
क्वेश्चन आंसर में हम लोग को बहुत लंबा वक्त लगेगा. And we also have Captain Tushar Pradhan Sahab. He is the General Secretary of MUI. Very young person, only 63. कितना एज हो गया सब? तो 4 साल और ऐड कर दो. तो मतलब हमसे सीनियर हैं दोनों में, राजेंद्रा में भी, प्रोफेशनली भी. तो देन यू नो आई हैव राइट टू फाइंड आउट. और ही विल टेल 5 मिनट्स. आई विल 1 मिनट जरा आ जाते हैं कैप्टन साहब सब. तो बैठिए ना सर, बैठिए. सो ये टॉपिक जो है ना सो चलता रहेगा. और तब तक मैं जस्ट आप लोगों को मोल्ड करने के लिए कहानी एक कैप्टन मुरली सर बोले ना कि अगर मैं वाइफ को लूँ और उसको डाइवोर्स कर दूँ और घर करूँ तो क्या होगा. तो ये क्या है कि वाइफ का जहाँ लीजिएगा वो हमेशा प्रॉब्लम ही होता है. शुरू में लोग को लगता है कि जो वाइफ का अच्छा है, लेकिन वाइफ का हमेशा प्रॉब्लम होता है. और आजकल ये जो कहानी है, सी आई केम अक्रॉस एन इंटरेस्टिंग एपिसोड लाइक व्हाट यू सेड सर, कि ऑफ कोर्स इन तमिलनाडु गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट क्लास 1 अफसर, एंड यू नो दे आर वेरी गुड इन प्लानिंग. क्योंकि ऐसे भी साउथ इंडिया के लोग ज़्यादा अच्छा प्लानिंग करते हैं, कंप्यूटर वगैरह उनको आता है. नॉर्थ वाले थोड़ा पीछे रहते हैं उनसे. तो उन्होंने देखा कि उनकी लड़की मेडिकल में पढ़ रही है. कैप्टन फिलिप मैथ्यू सर हंसते हैं, मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ ना, कि ये लोग यू नो मैं बहुत में इस सब में बिजी रहता हूँ. तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि तो ये क्या है कि उनकी लड़की मेडिकल में यू नो लाइक 2-3 साल के बाद पढ़ना चाहती थी. दे वर डूइंग द वेरी गुड प्लानिंग इन एडवांस. तो उन्होंने देखा कि अगर मैं यू नो कमिंग ठीक है, दे आर स्टेइंग इन द सेम हाउस अंडर द लीगल जो भी है सब करके. एंड द गर्ल चूज टू स्टे विथ हर मदर. एंड ऑफ कोर्स हर इनकम वाज लेस देन ईडब्ल्यूएस जो आता है ना. एंड देन शी वेंट इनटू द मेडिकल. तो हमारे यहाँ लोग जो है सो बहुत मतलब इनोवेटिव होते हैं. और जो है सो दूसरा जो मैं बोलता हूँ, अभी एपीएमसी में है तो एक इंस्पेक्टर साहब ने मेरे को, यहाँ महाराष्ट्र पुलिस के इंस्पेक्टर साहब ने एक बार एक चोर को पकड़ा. वो आलू चोरी करके गया कुछ 5-6 साल पहले. आलू का दाम बहुत हो गया था, प्याज का. तो इत्तेफाक से मैं भी उनसे बात कर रहा था. तो मैं उसको बोल रहा था कि तुम क्यों इतना मेहनत करके आलू चुराता है, तुम काम कर लेता है इससे. तो उन्होंने बोला कि हम लोग एग्जैक्टली समझते हैं कि ये चोर नॉर्थ इंडिया का होगा या साउथ का होगा, बाई नेचर ऑफ चोरी. यू नो ऐसे कि अरे ऐसे कैसे. तो बोला ये आलू प्याज वगैरह चावल जो चुराता है ना, ये सब नॉर्थ का लोग रहता है. और आपका जो साइबर जो हैक करता है ना, सब साउथ का रहता है. तो मैं नेचर ऑफ जो क्राइम है उससे मैं समझ जाता हूँ, तो हमको आसानी होती है. एनीवे तो वी विल स्टार्ट. वी आर यू नो वेटिंग फॉर एनके साहा सर, चेयरमैन साहब हैं. एंड
So they're saying that, you know, we go to our CA, friend, and we ask him what the problem is. So I told him, I said, if you call a car mechanic to fix your plumbing, he's not going to be able to fix it. Why? Both of them are mechanics, no? So you have to go to the right person. अगर आपको हार्ट का प्रॉब्लम है, आप डेंटिस्ट के पास जाएंगे, डॉक्टर तो वो दोनों ही डॉक्टर है ना. But thing is that if you have a heart problem, then you need to go to a heart specialist rather than you go to a dentist. So it's very, very important that you go to a right person. That's number one. Number two, I can emulate, and I do that even today. I can emulate 100% the people's thinking here. Okay, यार अभी कंसल्टेंट के पास क्यों जाएं यार, वो 10-15 हज़ार रुपये ले लेगा. But the thing is, that in my view, that money is well spent because that is going to have a long-term impact. I was talking to somebody and he was saying that, you know, I'm so and so years old and I've got 15 years of life left, so where should I invest? So I told him, see, I'm a tax expert and I talked a lot about financials, but I'm not an expert in advising you where to invest and how much to invest. I can give you general guidance and principle, but my recommendation to you would be, if you are saving 15,000 rupees a month, I am telling you that 1 month saving will be very, very well spent if you actually go to a consultant and pay him that 15,000. He will save you, or he will make money 15 times over as compared to what you do. It's like, basically, why do you use Google Maps? So basically your consultant will be actually a Google Maps. If you go by yourself, if you have to go to Churchgate, you might take a wrong turn without using Google Maps. So why do you use Google Maps? You use Google Maps so that you reach your destination in the shortest possible time, and that's exactly what a consultant is. So, you know, you have to have a slightly different attitude, is that for making money, you have to spend money and effort. There is no shortcut. Out of 100 people, 2 people will get lucky. Let me know when you want to start. Out of 100 people, 2 people will get lucky, but 98% of the people will be left behind. So it's money well spent if you go to a person. If you're saving 15,000 rupees per month and you're saying you're going to save 1 month saving, pay it to your consultant, and I can tell you, in 2 years' time, you'll recover 5 times more. Shall we start? No problem. There is no, see, consultant will give you options. The decision to take which road, if you are going to Churchgate, is yours. Like, you know, you told me you want to, after the session, you want to be able to file your tax return. We spent 3 days together. 3 days for this presentation. I have got 39 years of experience. He's got probably 35 years of experience, and he's got 14 years of experience doing this stuff. And we spent 3 days together to be able to prepare this presentation. So the thing is, if I, who've got 39 or 40 and 35 and 15 years of experience, to be able to tell you this, and we had to sit together, how is it humanly possible for me to make you digest, not understand, I'm saying, make you digest, to be able to prepare a return of income? यार मेरे 40 साल हो गए, अगर तो आप मेरे को बोलेंगे रिटर्न प्रिपेयर कर, मैं भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा, because I am not an expert in that. There are people who actually are experts in preparing returns. So everybody, see, unfortunately today life has become so complicated. You need to have what is known as a T-shaped knowledge. You need to have your core competency in one area and then general information on the other area, so that when you come across a problem, you are able to identify the problem. You will never be able to gain knowledge. There are only 1% of the people who will only have expert knowledge across the board. It will never happen. I mean, you need to be an Einstein to be able to. Even Einstein he proved E is equal to MC square in that area. If you go and speak to him regarding, you know, dentistry and this thing, if somebody was there, he would not be able to answer.
5 minutes के लिए बैठिए. So we will make a break, मतलब for 5 minutes from the tax matter, because tax में अभी direct tax and foreign exchange regulation का, FEMA का कैसे management होता है दोनों का, that is left, okay. And too much question answer जाएगा तो हम लोग वो नहीं कर पाएंगे. So we'll have to stop here. In between we have a very distinguished personality from the shipping fraternity, Captain Tusan Pradhan sir. He is the General Secretary of MUI that we all are member, and डे एंड नाइट, मतलब हम लोग का बहस चल रहा था 24/7 या 48/14 या 365 days. He is always working and fighting for the various cause welfare of all the officers in India, keeping very low profile. So we are very fortunate to have him with us. So I will request Captain N.K. Saha to introduce him and bring him to the dais. Also welcome him. मैं एक flower bouquet मंगाता हूँ.
As Captain Nalin Pandey already said,
Sorry, अब हम लोग कभी कभी
yes, thank you. As Captain Nalin Pandey already mentioned, Captain Tushar Pradhan, Secretary General of Maritime Union of India. But apart from that, is a very dear friend, very close, very helpful for this Navi Mumbai fraternity also. One phone call and he's here. Captain Pradhan, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And he keeps asking if we can help. And now this break, 5 minutes break, Captain Nalin and I, we decided to take this break extempore, maybe few minutes. Why? Because when the very purpose of these seminars is get ourselves updated more than, and then this thought came to us because looking at the practicing seafarers, we are stagnant seafarers. You guys are, and 80%, 90% I put on the group is active seafarers who are sailing on the ship. So we requested, we are requesting Captain Tushar Pradhan to spend 5 minutes, update you, tell us what is happening from the MUI perspective. When you say MUI perspective, means from seafarers perspective. Some recent happening development. Captain Tushar Pradhan, please.
Good afternoon to one and all, to the dignitaries who are here seated in front of me and also on the dais, to the CMMI Navi Mumbai chapter. Thank you, Captain Saha, for introducing me, and to Captain Nalin Pandey for also sending me this invitation. It's a lovely topic, taxation. I'm also attending for the first time. I won't take much, I just want to brief you all a few. I've been a sailor, an old sea dog, 45 years at sea, but zero in investments. Well, that's not our domain. I don't blame myself either. Well, I should have taken interest when people were telling me, but I always took it very casually. And that is what I wanted to convey to you all. You all have a team of experts out here, and we saw how much of experience they have together. You all have to now start waking up. It's still not too late, and make sure that your corpuses are well secured when you decide to quit sea. And whatever you do after quitting sea, that is the bonus for you. So please make sure that you all take a keen interest, and you have n number of questions, jot it down, ask, and as they very rightfully said, you must go to the experts in those fields who will guide you properly. Well, there is always a fee for everything. Nothing comes free. Neither your marriage came free. Neither your children are free. Right? We all have worked for it, and we keep working for it. So when you have to make sure that the upkeep has to be maintained, and that's what you do even on the ships, there are expenses for the owners also. But that is an investment. So please take due interest. At MUI, I am very thankful for you all for giving all that support to MUI, and I wish that more and more members come in and you all advocate that to all your juniors and those who have not taken the membership. I know it's a lot of money that you have to invest into MUI, and just to it's not a joke or something, but 1800 rupees per annum, it's also a lot of money, right? I do get mails that I'm giving you hard and sweat of 1800 of mine to you for the membership. What am I getting in return? Beautiful question. I always tell them, thank you very much. I wish all the members were like that, who thought of putting their sweat for MUI. And it's not about what you are giving. It is what you are going to be represented as. MUI is affiliated to ITF. We are also doing the agreements with IBF. Every Danish agreement, Norwegian agreement, you name it, the NIS agreements, everything we keep doing, Norwegian ones, Japanese ones, JSU, and we are your representatives. It is the CBA is done with the unions so that you all are at peace. And your grievances is our grievances. And we take this matter up. We represent you all for your grievances. Try to make sure that the justice has been done. So that's the reason where the MUI stands. We always have the welfares. They are there on the website. I will give you the websites. For those who don't have, you all can go through. Now the recent events that we are planning in. So there is going to be a well-being program. I don't use the word mental because, in our good old days, mental means you are not from this planet, right? You are a different group. So I don't want to say that mental word. It's a well-being word. So the reason is, except for the last 3 weeks, last 2 months were very bad for me previous to that. And I was literally getting 3 cases every week of suicide or missing. Before the good old days, when we were sailing, we used to have a lot of injury cases and death due to injuries. Mostly it is to be enclosed spaces, as you all know, a very common place. But now those are become negligent, totally negligent. Nothing is coming up from there. But it's all social media which is the cause for these suicides and people going missing overnight. People are on work till about coffee time. Between coffee and lunch, after lunch, you don't find them around. That is very, very alarming. This should not happen. We have all are strong people, we have good bodies, we have good minds, and we should not fall a prey for the social media. I know there are pressures, tensions from home, from friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, everything. But are we that weak? We are not weak. We can take the brunt, we can run the ships. We have been sailing through the storms. And these few things are going to affect, and we are going to make a final call. Are we going to quit our life for all this? We can face anything up. So please be brave. You must be patient. You must try to find ways of trying to convince everyone at home also. But do not take this drastic step. If you require any assistance, please call MUI. We are there for you at all times, and even for your families, they can call us at any time. As Captain Nalin Pandey said, 24/7 or 48/14, I'm always available 365 days around the clock. If I've missed your call, I'll still give your call back. I will stay in touch. So don't worry about these things, and make sure we do not have to fall a prey for anything. There are a lot of doctors available, psychiatrists available, psychologists available, and there are many free phone calls you can make. There are organizations who will arrange for doctors or a psychologist to discuss with you some matters which will be kept confidential from the companies. So that is the reason I'm doing a well-being program more. What I've looked at it is many of these cases that after doing the analyzing part of it, we found that there have been pressures from the home front. So that's why my main concentration is now well-being for the families and the seafarer, but emphasis is more on the families. All the companies are doing the well-being program for y'all prior joining. So you all don't need to be given an overdose of anything. But are your families being called in for these well-being programs? No. So that is where I stand for. So I want to do this for the well-being for the families, and when I will be announcing the dates of these programs, we will do it webinars first. I have Madam Salia Sheikh, who is the in charge for the women's wing. So it's a dedicated women's wing, and she is 24/7 also available. So we will announce that. Please ask your families to join those webinars. You know, be a part of it, and thereafter they want to be in touch, they are most welcome. Another thing which is still in the pipeline, I'm still looking for quotes. I have to see whether I can sustain, because any program I have to roll out, I have to see the sustainability. If I announce something today, 6 months down the line, I say, oh, my coffins are over, we are discontinuing, I think then that's a stupid move that I've done. So the next part that I have intend to do is medical camps, going cities by cities, and then we will enter into the rural areas. Depends on how the success come in, what are the expenditures. I'm trying to do with a lot of labs, trying to see what all they can do, what all the cost factors are, what we can offer our seafarers. That will be all free of cost for you all. MUI will bear everything from your hard and sweat of 1800 rupees that you contribute. So don't worry on that front. But only I will say continue to invest 1800 with me, though it's not an investment firm, but something in return you can always look at. And the third one that is coming up is an e-library to you all. E-library is a joint venture with CMMI, and where are you all sitting today? IMEI. So I'm using two brains, bringing them together, and my pockets are a little heavy from your funds. So I'm going to use your funds, use their brains, and give you a free library, e-library. You cannot, there are ifs and buts. So don't say afterwards, oh, what is this? So I'm just telling you all. You cannot download. It's going to be in PDF formats where you can open up, read. We'll allow 2 instruments for you to log in, 2 IP addresses. So on mobile and then maybe your laptop or something, that you lose something or you discard, you'll have to re-register with your new IP address. But that will be again available 24/7 for you all. Yeah, especially for your examinations. You don't have to buy books. INDI will start loading their books, technical books, journals, whatever they feel is required, necessary, they will load. Same thing the CMMIs will do. There will be an overdose. Also there is an EMBA from the CMMI, you are all aware of it? No, nobody tells you all to do EMBAs. I think I have to catch CMMI now. Shah Saab, हाँ थोड़ा सा जरा update दे देना. Even books required for that, we are going to upload in that. We are also looking is for those who are doing that MBA every semester wise for the navigation paper. We are going to, whoever tops it up, we are going to give him some scholarship. So yeah, we can see there are technical, non-technical. I'm not going to stop at anywhere. I want people to take as much advantage of MUI as possible. Chew them up.
When is this e-library happening?
You have to catch hold of CMI and IMEI. These are the people who have to put everything together, these pieces. As I said, they tell me X amount, check, that's ready. Sponsorship funds are ready. It is only these two teams. Yeah, but there were a lot of issues. See, it doesn't come because when you are doing such a project which is going to cost a ball for us, you know. So we have to make sure everything is covered up. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I've taken a little extra time, but I hope it was fruitful for you all.
So thank you very much, Captain Tushar bhai. It was very enlightening about the MUI, and I hope that all the youngsters will become the member without asking the question. Okay. कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना होगा तो यू कैन आस्क अस इन द ऑफिस. ओके, नाउ we start our main subject. Okay, this was also the part of that. Okay, financial planning cannot be without the career planning. ठीक है ना? तो now we give it to Mr. Sanjay Grover sir and his team to carry on, sir. Thank you.
Let's come back to the more interesting part about residency and non-residency.
Yeah. So now whatever we discussed about the resident before the break. Yeah. We've just put it in a pictorial form in this slide. So if you look at the left hand side is what we have exhaustively discussed. Okay, that if you have spent less than 182 days in India, okay, then what will typically happen is to determine your residential or non-residential status. How and what will happen? So whether you are a Indian citizen and but not taxed in any other country, then so this is just for your ease of understanding as you move ahead. If let's say this kind of a situation is happening with any one of you for FY 24-25 or thereafter, then you can use this as a relevant test to see that what your status would be. Now coming on the right hand side, because that is something that we have still not discussed.
I've always believed to understand anything.
If you know the logic behind why something is done, it becomes easier to understand. You know what was happening? People were actually going to Dubai, staying there for 183 days and not paying any taxes. So you don't pay taxes in India, you don't pay taxes in Dubai. So when the government said, this is not right. So what they did was, earlier, you know, if you see the second box that is there on the left hand side, that was not there. So you only had to look at 182 days, less than 182 days. And then if you had any income from business controlled in India or a profession controlled in India, then either it is yes or no. To plug the situation where people go to Dubai just to avoid taxes and not pay taxes in India as well as in Dubai, they introduced this provision where they said that if you're an Indian national and if you're not a tax resident of India because there are less than 183 days, and if you are not taxed in any other country, then you may not be a non-resident even though you are in India for less than 183 days. So that was the logic. So I just thought I'll explain the logic, because when you understand the logic, then it sticks better, because otherwise they are just numbers and figures. Yeah, go ahead. No, income earned in Dubai, if you are a non-resident, then that will not be this thing. But if you, if you are a resident in India, then obviously worldwide income is taxable. But if you are a resident or not ordinary resident, then your income earned in Dubai is not taxable in India.
Income earned in Dubai will not be taxed. Yeah. Now coming to the right hand side, that what if you had spent more than 182 days in India? So as we had discussed prior to the break, that the simple test for seafarers is going to be, have I spent 182 days or more in India? Now, this 182 days or more will make you a resident. But even over there, there can be situations when someone may still not become a resident, but there is a possibility that they may be a not ordinarily resident, thereby allowing them to not offer their income earned outside India to tax in India. Right? Just to recap, resident global income is chargeable to tax, but for resident but not ordinarily resident, right, only the India sourced income plus this business and profession control from India income is chargeable, right? Sir, as you gave example, Dubai income will not get taxed. So now in which situations, even though you have spent more than 182 days, you could still be a RNOR. So what it says is, the chart, you have spent more than 182 days, the answer is yes. But were you a non-resident in India in last 9 years out of the 10 years? So this can be a situation for someone who, let's say, had relocated from India for good, maybe with family, alone, etc., and has stayed outside India for a substantial period, had taken up employment outside India, but now for whatever reason has decided to come back. So the year in which they come back, let's say they have come back in the month of April or May, then logically they'll be spending more than 182 days in India. But the government is giving them a little bit of a leeway to say that for the first 2 years, because if you look at the numbers, it will effectively come to around first 2 years. Essentially for the first 2 years, even though you are based in India, we will treat you as a resident but not ordinarily resident, and not a resident so that otherwise your global income would have been taxed in India. So why again this has been done is because when you come back to India for good, it may not be possible for you to close everything in one shot, your bank accounts, your other sources of income, your investments, and then come back. You may take some time, right? So that is why this kind of a little bit of a leeway or a relaxation has been given. So it says, are you in India for 182 days or more? If the answer is yes, then you check. So you are already in the worst situation, right? You are already a resident based on our discussions because you have spent more than 182 days. Here the government is trying to give you some relaxation. So if you fulfill even one of the two conditions which are mentioned below, you can become a resident but not ordinarily resident, thereby avoiding your overseas income getting taxed in India, subject to these numerical thresholds, okay?
Just another, one takeaway from here. If you are seafarers traveling outside India, please on an annual basis, note down your exit and departures, which we will discuss, so that you know what is the number of days in India and outside India. Preferably what you should do is every time when you go in and you go out, you should note it down, because then from September onwards, you will be able to plan better. If you are, you're coming on the threshold, maybe if you're going to stay up with the way your rotation works, if it's going to come to 160, 170 days or something like that, then you can plan for it, a plan in such a manner that you stay outside India for 182 days. So please make a note of your days of departure and arrival in India for the purpose of counting the number of days. I am telling you that because my son is in the US, and for his residency, I have to keep a track of his number of days. So that's when I realized it's very important that we do that.
Yeah.
So we have not covered, because I don't think we have the time. We would have taken another one full day to discuss that. But currently, what we realized was that majority of the people are going to be Indian nationals on Indian flag vessels. So we've kind of restricted our discussion to that rather than expanding the scope of our discussion. So the logic was that let's try and do whatever we can in the best possible manner, rather than doing too many things and the recipients not understanding anything. So let's pick up the topics which are there and then discuss those thoroughly, so that at least the recipients can absorb it to the maximum extent possible. Otherwise, to do things lag jayenge.
And so different issues that we are discussing, as Sanjay ji mentioned, the responses could be different if it is an Indian flag vessel or a foreign flag vessel. Just for the sake of completeness, this particular slide, it would not make a difference whether it is a India flag or a foreign flag, because you are coming back in India. Now what is being tested is what you had done when you are outside India, right? And that is also only the number of days. So it would not matter whether you are outside India on employment for a India flag or foreign flag vessel, as long as you meet one of these two conditions. So the first condition is that you have been a non-resident outside India, I mean non-resident from an India perspective, in 9 out of the last 10 years. Okay? You have to fulfill this one condition, or the second condition is that in India you have spent less than 729 days or less in the last 7 years. So logically, let's say if you had gone outside India for the purposes of employment, right, then very likely that you may be non-resident in 9 years out of the 10, or may have spent less than 729 days in the last 7 years. So even if you fulfill one of these conditions, okay, you will be a RNOR and not a resident, despite spending more than 182 days in the current year. So that's the little bit of the leeway which this particular section provides. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Right now. Yeah, that's a FEMA related. So first of all, though, we need to understand the definition of residential under FEMA also. We have just completed the income tax aspect. We'll come to that. So a very quick check, just so that for everyone's understanding, how to compute your period outside India, because for seafarers this becomes very important, as Sanjay ji also just mentioned, that a good idea is to maintain an Excel sheet which will typically denote the date of leaving India, the date of arriving into India, right? Now, if the vessel is either boarding, I mean you are boarding from one of the ports in India, or ultimately you are signing off or alighting on one of the ports in India, then CDC, continuous discharge certificate, is the relevant document, right? But if let's say you have been asked to board and alight, both these ports are outside India, then the passport date is relevant. So as a matter of practice, what you could typically do is capture both the dates for the passport also as the CDC also. Of course, there, I mean, it will only be one or the other in a particular case, but have a habit of maintaining, both these pieces of information. And it may also be relevant if CDC as a copy, I'm sure you guys must be preserving it, but again, capturing maybe 3-4 important parameters of that CDC in this Excel itself, right? So that you at least come to know which port you had boarded or alighted and what was in India, so that because CDC again has a relevance from an income tax perspective insofar as seafarers are concerned. For an individual other than seafarer like me, it will be the passport which will decide that what is my date of entry and what is my date of exit from India. But for one of the ports, boarding or alighting, the income tax department has mentioned that, or has recognized that CDC is the relevant document which will decide your date of entry and exit from India, right? Now, again, there is one more exception or relaxation given for seafarers. If any other individual leaves the country and let's say after some time returns back, the date of leaving and the date of entry both are considered to be days spent in India for an individual, let's say example me, because for a part of the day I was in India, so the law says it is a day spent in India. However, for seafarers, again over here relaxation has been given, that your day of departure as well as the day of arrival, okay, will be considered as part of the voyage, and they will not be considered, or they should not be included in calculating your 182 days for your residential status. Okay, so that's a very important thing. And again, see, something like this will be taken care of by your consultant or whom you are working with regularly. But even for your rough calculation of 182 days, etc., you should keep this in mind, because many a times our clients also have made a mistake where they wanted to stay outside India exactly for, let's say 183, 184 days, but because of this passport stamp not being legible, etc., they have miscalculated the date, and they have by one day then fall short. They have actually become a resident. So these kind of things, if they are captured in Excel, you've taken care of it, then it becomes much easier for you to plan in case such a situation arrives. So we've given two quick, just 1 minute, sir. We've given two quick examples over here, that if the departure is July 1 and you arrive on 31st, in an ideal situation, like for someone like me, my days spent outside India would only be 29. But for you guys, it would be 31 days that is considered to be outside India, right? And similarly, we have given one larger example as well, that from 1st September to 31st March, then it would typically result in 212 days. Yeah.
The rule applies
This is also for Indian flagship. Yeah.
So for foreign flagship, it will be your passport. And plus your day of departure and your day of arrival will be considered as in India.
In India.
Okay, so foreign flagship, day of arrival and day of departure will be considered as part of India.
Yeah. But
Oh.
as far as CDC is concerned,
Yeah.
the moment that the date of the CDC is considered outside India, when you're going,
Flights will be treated as a regular Indian.
yeah.
Correct.
So
Now,
the advantage of the CDC is that even though the ship is in India within 200 nautical, 12 nautical miles, you are deemed to be outside India.
now, apart from the physical stay also, if you guys remember this particular slide, okay, that when does that 60 become 182? So we mentioned that a person goes outside India for employment or like seafarers as a crew member as part of the ship. So essentially what it is saying is that you are going outside India for your employment purpose at the end of the day. Okay. It is only then that 60 gets replaced by 182. In this condition, if you guys remember, here we said 60 days in the current year plus 365 days in the last 4 years. That was one of the condition. But this 60 gets replaced by 182 days for people going outside India for employment, and hence we discussed that that condition becomes theoretical. But it is only when you go outside India for employment. So if you go outside India for...
Yeah. So let me give you an example. I want to ask a question. If the tax year, April 1, 2024 to 31st March 25, I get an employment outside India in Dubai, and I leave on, let's say, October 30th, will this condition apply? Just go back. Will this condition apply? For the purpose of employment outside India, will that 60 days get extended to 180? So it says, for the purpose of employment outside India. I was in India always, or let's not take October, I was in India always, and in August, I go outside for an employment in Dubai.
So will that 60 days get extended to 182 days? Okay. No. So you're for the purpose of counting your days in India, it will be 182 days and not 60 days. Now let's go to the next year. You are employed outside India. And next year you come to India. Let's say for 80 days. It's more than 60 days. Will this condition apply? No, you come on holiday. You are based in Dubai. You come on holiday and you stay in India because then 60 days will become applicable. No? Or question is whether 60 days or 182 days. If this condition applies, then 182 days will be applicable. If this condition does not apply, then 60 days will become applicable. Now my question to you is, you have gone out in the current financial year, you have gone out for the first time for employment outside India. So 60 days gets extended to 182 days. Now in the next year, you are already outside India. You come for a holiday to India and you stayed in India for 70 days. Now obviously it's in excess of 60 days. The question is, will this condition apply? No. It says you are going outside India for the purpose of employment. You're going outside India. So the first time when you go outside India for the purpose of employment, the 60 days gets extended to 182 days. That is number one. Okay? Some of it, your questions will get answered. There is a separate provision. Which says that if you are outside India, and you come on a visit to India, whether you are employed outside India or doing business outside India, the result is the same, but it can have a lot of implications, especially when people want to plan their taxes. So if you are outside India and you come to India for a holiday or something like that, then again it gets extended to 182 days. Now I am not going to go into the details in terms of how it is used by people, because people go outside, let's say they take up employment. There is a company who's got a lot of subsidiaries outside India. The owner goes to Dubai and he takes up employment with the Dubai entity, but almost stays in India because 60 days get extended to 182 days. Like here, when you're going for the first time for employment, when you're coming back on holiday, or you're coming to, it doesn't say holiday, but it says you're coming to India on a visit. It says you're coming to India on a visit. They come to India and they stay for 160, 170 days and so on and so forth. Question is, are you on a visit to India or are you visiting outside India? So it becomes tickly. I'm not going ticklish. I'm not getting into that, but just wanted to highlight there are two separate provisions. The condition is the same, that in the year you go outside India for employment, 60 is extended to 182 days. If you are outside India and come on a visit to India, then again 60 gets extended to 182 days.
So just to sum up, I think on similar lines what Sanjay ji mentioned is purpose of the stay outside India is relevant when you are counting your days spent outside India. Okay, so if you look at this table, there is a particular seafarer who has Indian seafarer who is sailing on foreign waters. That is 170 days. He's also spent outside India only a vacation of 15 days. Okay, so the total number of days per se where he was outside India is 185. But how many will be considered as a part of that 182 calculation for determining whether he has spent more than 182 days outside India or not? So that will only be 170, because the 15 days of vacation is typically not spent outside India for the purposes of employment, right? That's what the law says. So lot of people have also tried to do planning surrounding this when they have been outside India and they are near to the, the threshold condition like this. They try and extend their stay in form of a vacation, etc. and all. So one has to be very careful. It is not just the physical stay, but physical stay backed by the objective of that stay outside India, right? Take the second example. 170 days is sailing on foreign waters, 15 days is vacationing. But now, as a part of that trip, your employer has also asked you to attend a business conference, some training which is happening over there. And for that you have spent 14 days, right? So now when you spend your total number of days spent outside India for determining your residential status, we will continue to ignore that 15 days, which is the vacation. But we can certainly include this 14 days, because this is something that is as a part of your employment. So this helps you to navigate that 182 days, or in this hypothetical scenario, that 182 days test is navigated, and that person can possibly then go towards claiming a NR or a RNOR status. Will not be a resident, right? So please keep this in mind. We've seen not only in seafarer industry, but even otherwise professionals also who have gone out on deputation, etc., trying to manage these timelines by including a vacation or going to a relative's place, etc., and all, or staying a few days. But if this comes to the notice of the tax authorities, then it is something which is not exactly in line with the law.
But if you have a non-seafarer, then it's the actual number of days. But the day of arrival and departure is considered as in India. Are you with me? Are you with me? So, if you step back, we have just taken, 4 slides? Other than what I spoke of in terms of financial planning, that is not law. But we've discussed, 4 slides? In these 4 slides, how many exceptions are there? Agar ye nahi to wo nahi, agar not this and then that, and then you can't include 14 days, but you can exclude 14 days. Now the question is, that is why you need to go to an expert. I mean, I can't list down all the exceptions. Now these exceptions change depending upon the circumstances. So for me to identify all the permutations and combinations and note it down, it will take me 2 years. So again, re-emphasizing, please do consult for, if your car is not fixed, you have to go to a car mechanic and not to a plumber. Both of them are mechanics. Yeah, Kartik. Any questions so far? Coming to that, that is Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. We've covered that. We've covered that. Mind you, this is only income tax. It determines whether you have to pay tax or not. This is only income tax. When you come to bank accounts and things like that, that is not covered by income tax. Income tax covers whether you are taxable or not on an overall basis, and whether a particular source of income is taxable or not, and how much it is to be taxed. So income tax is whether you are taxable or not. If you are taxable, then which income is taxable? And if which income is taxable, then how much of that income is to be taxed? So it gives the answer to these three questions. बैंक अकाउंट मेंटेन करना है, कौन सा करना है, कभी करना है, क्यों करना है, कैसे करना है, that is FEMA, that is exchange control. There is interlinkages between the two, because sometimes it's income tax says यार अगर वो तुम FEMA में देखो, if you satisfy this condition then you will be exempt. That we will come to later, but let's understand these two now. If we don't understand these two, then we will not be able to understand the commonalities between the two.
Yeah. So now we come to the definition of residency as per exchange control, as per FEMA. Okay. So as we saw that in income tax, along with the physical stay, the objective is very important, that you are going out for employment, not for employment, etc. Okay. In FEMA, there is a physical a stay condition given, but the intention overrides even the physical stay under FEMA. It is more or less dependent upon the intention of the individual as to what they are wanting to do when they have gone out, or if someone is coming into India, what is their intention, and that will typically determine their residential status. Another very large distinction between the definition of residency under income tax and FEMA is, under income tax, if you are a resident, then you are resident for entire 12 months. If you are a non-resident, you are non-resident for the entire financial year, April to March. FEMA differs in this regard. Okay. In FEMA, your residential status theoretically can change on a daily basis also.
Sir, this is probably an answer to your question.
Okay. So today on 14th of December, I may be a resident as per FEMA, but on 16th of December, if I am leaving India for my employment, from 16th December itself, I become a non-resident under FEMA. So I will continue to be a resident under income tax for the entire FY 24-25, but I will become a non-resident under FEMA, right? And just to go a little bit deeper, but I'll just skim past the surface. Under FEMA, it is very important that your residential status is mapped on a daily basis, because there are a lot of transactions which a resident can do and a non-resident can't do, and likewise many transactions which the non-residents can do but residents cannot do. And if RBI also starts governing your residential status on an annual basis, like how income tax does, then our country can actually lose a lot of foreign exchange, because if someone who has become a non-resident is allowed to repatriate $1 million every year, whereas a resident is allowed to send only $250,000. So if a foreign national comes, etc. and all, and they are a resident, then they will not be allowed to take away 1 million. They will actually be, RBI will control the outflow from them. Likewise, if you are an Indian and you have gone out and you still continue to be a resident under FEMA, which could also be a scenario, then RBI will not allow you to take 1 million and will again hold you to 250,000. So there are a lot of economic factors because of which, the definition has to be determined on a residential basis, on a daily basis under FEMA.
So, just to wake everybody up, is that this slide for people sitting here is the most important slide for answering your questions, whether you can have an NRI account, whether you need to convert your saving account to NRO account and back. So if you can understand this slide and digest this slide, by the way, I mean, we spent about 6 hours talking of various permutations and combinations between the three as far as this slide is concerned. So please pay a lot of attention to this slide. This is a very, very important slide.
Another distinction, even in counting of days between income tax and FEMA is, we discussed that in income tax you count your number of days spent in the current financial year. So if you are determining your residential status for 24-25, you look at the number of days also spent in India for FY 24-25. 1 minute, I think the screen, yeah. But if you look at the definition under FEMA, okay, it says individual stays in India for 182 days in preceding FY. So first, when they are giving a physical presence test or a stay based test, they are saying you look at your number of days spent in FY 23-24. That by default will decide what is your residential status. Okay? But this day condition will not apply if one of these three things happen for a resident who is already a resident, and one of these three things happen for a foreign national or a NRI coming into India, and we'll go through it. So I am a individual based in India and I go outside India for the purpose of employment. For the purpose of employment, or I go outside India for carrying out any business or vocation, or simply I go outside India for an uncertain period of time. I don't know when I'll return back. In either of these three situations, if this happens on 16th of December, for example, in my case, I'll become a non-resident from that day itself under FEMA. So first I have to see, okay, what was my number of days spent in India in FY 23-24 for FEMA residency? The answer is yes, more than 182. So I am a resident. So from 1st April till 15th of December, I'll continue to remain a resident. But the moment on 16th December, I am triggering one of these three conditions which override the physical, stay test. So yes, I am going outside India either for employment or for business or for an uncertain period. So 16 December say I'll become a non-resident under FEMA.
So let me stop here. Any questions on this? Does anybody, last year, more than 102 days, you are a resident in India. But if you satisfy any of these three conditions, then from that day onwards, you become a non-resident in the current financial year. Any questions about that? I mean, it looks very simple. There is no doubt about it. When you start getting into it, there are various permutations and combinations. Okay.
So what if a seafarer is signing on in India and signing off in India?
We're coming to that. That's exactly. So that is why I two, three times I said, this slide is very important, because if you start reading both of them together, so you already read the second part, it becomes very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So similarly, now the lower portion of the slide, we have to read with the first line again. Okay. That individual stays in India for 182 days in the preceding FY. Okay. Which of course, for him that condition will be, it is less than 182 days. So he is a non-resident by default, right? But that condition will not be applicable. So if the person comes to India for or on taking up of employment, for business or vocation, for carrying out business or vocation, and again for an uncertain period of time, then from that day itself he becomes a resident in India under FEMA. Okay, now just to give you a distinction, under income tax, so he'll be non-resident very likely, because he's coming only on 16th of December for the first time ever in India, and he's not spent 182 days or has not spent 60 days and 365 days in the last 4 years, right? He'll fulfill 60 days, but he has not fulfilled 360. So here are the anomalies or that different scenarios coming up, where in first example, when I am going out for income tax, I'll continue to be resident, but under FEMA I'll become a non-resident. Here when a foreign national or a NRI is coming in for the first time or after many years, they'll continue to be a non-resident under income tax, but will immediately become a resident under FEMA from the day when they come in India for either of these three purposes.
So Kartik, let's repeat again, so that everybody understands. I know this is complicated, because if you understand the basics, then you will start applying things like what he said. I mean, he jumped the gun. First, you look at the previous financial year. Am I less than 182 days? Then in the current year, I'm a non-resident. If I'm more than 182 days, I'm a resident. Very simple. Very simple. But laws is generally never that simple, because it has to take into consideration various situations. Now, there are different scenarios. There's a guy who's in India who's never been outside India. Became a seafarer and he was lucky enough to get unemployment. Now, this is not relating to only Indian seafarers. This is to everybody. This doesn't talk of Indian national or foreign national. Nothing. So this guy in the previous years, he's always lived in India. And then in, let's say, December 1, he gets this letter, "Arey yaar, you got a job for $10,000 per month. You have to go outside India for employment." So he goes outside. He stayed in India in the past for more than 183 days. He satisfies the first condition for or on taking up employment. Now, for and on taking up employment also has very different connotations. For means when you are going outside India and you are exercising employment there. On taking up employment could mean that somebody is sending you outside for employment, but you may be employed in India. Okay. Now, this has a different implications for tax. Huh? Tax, if you receive salary in India, is taxable in India. But here you will become a non-resident. Okay. So, carrying on business of vacation, so you're going outside India. Now, somebody may say, यार, कि मैं FEMA authorities को बोल देता हूँ कि मैं 10 दिन के लिए जा रहा हूँ बाहर. I know I'm going only for 10 days. I will show as if I'm going to start a business or profession, but I will come back after 1 month. That is where the intention also comes. नहीं तो बोलेगा कि यार मैं उधर धंधा करने जा रहा हूँ. अभी उसको कैसे पता लगेगा मैं धंधा 10 दिन के लिए जा रहा हूँ, 20 दिन के लिए जा रहा हूँ या 6 साल के लिए जा रहा हूँ. मैं बोलूँगा मैं 6 साल के लिए धंधा करने जा रहा हूँ. I will do whatever is required to be there, but I know I'm going to be there only for 2 months or 3 months. So the question is where the intention will come. So let's park for a person going from India to outside India. Okay. Let's look at a person who's outside India. He's never come to India before, or a person who's an Indian. He's been outside India such that he's in India for less than 182 days. So he becomes a non-resident. Am I clear? Yes. Now a person is outside India. He's not been in India for 182 days in the, तो वो तो non-resident at the first instant. But ये जिंदगी में ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. ये बट पता नहीं कहाँ से आया था. But he is coming to India for or taking up employment in India. Now the moment he comes into India for or on taking up employment in India, from that day when he lands in India, not from there. When he lands in India, he will become a resident from that day, not from the past. Now that means his status has changed from a non-resident to a resident. So October 1 ko aaya, so his residence has changed from non-resident to resident from October 1. Or he comes to India to set up a business or profession. Or he comes on neither. Or he comes on neither. Some, parents are staying outside India, kids are in India. Now they are neither coming for employment, nor they are coming for business or profession. They come to stay with their kids. But if they are coming to stay with their kids for a holiday, no, then condition doesn't. Because they are coming to India only for a specified period.
Specific purpose and for a certain period.
Yeah.
So then you cannot say that it is for an uncertain period.
If they are coming for a specific period, because parents are coming to India with the kids, they are not planning to stay here in India, they will not become a resident. Now the complication that comes up, what he asked, if a seafarer who's never been outside India goes for a voyage, during that period he becomes a non-resident. But when he comes back to India, will he become a resident? Read both of them. See, if he is employed with a foreign company, his employment contract is there, he comes for a holiday to India, it is fine. Huh?
Then you will become a resident Indian.
So I am not going to give that answer, but I want you to think.
Depends on his previous financial year.
See, previous financial year, let's say that he has always been in India.
Okay.
He has always been in India, on, let's say, June 1, he goes outside India. But he goes for a voyage for 60 days. Question is, has he gone outside India for or taking up employment, or for an uncertain period?
How is it uncertain?
You've gone outside India only for a certain period, no?
Your contract will typically state your period, right?
Okay. Now, so the question is, which one do you apply? Do you apply 1 or 3, or you apply combined both 1 and 3? Why? Why? I agree. So there are two situations. That means you will apply 1, but you will be a non-resident. You will become a resident when you come back to India. Correct? Or the second option is only for the period when you are outside India, you will be a non-resident. Correct? Now, if you actually think about it, it can create a huge amount of anomaly. That means you can become a non-resident 5 times in a year. So unfortunately what happens is, the law when it is written, it can't contemplate all the scenarios. So the law is written in generic. Now when the law is written in generics, then you have situations where complications arise, and then you have to take a view. And that's where the problem comes up. Anyway, I'm just, the idea was to make you understand, because that has other ramifications. You have people who go outside India for voyage, come back. You are saying you will become a resident. That means you need to convert your NRE account into an NRI account, because a resident cannot have an NRE account, cannot have an FCNRB account. But I think the entire industry, if you are going in and out of voyage, you are maintaining your NRE account. So which view to take? I mean, one view to take is that I am here only on holiday. I am again going out. The other is not, that you are going outside India and you are coming back, then you become a resident. So the question is which you take. That will depend on facts. So anyway, I'll tell you. Pardon? Yes?
Yes.
So,
see, sir, sorry one. So I'll tell you that how that penalty or everything gets triggered. We are presuming that under FEMA we are all residents, okay? All of us. We can buy agricultural land, okay? Even if it is an Indian citizen, but is NRI as per FEMA, non-resident as per FEMA, they cannot buy agricultural land in India. This is just one example.
No, they cannot buy more than 2 residential properties.
I'm just saying this is one example. Now let's say you, as a part of your investments, because you want to invest, you come across and you end up buying a plot of land. Now, what is your residential status under FEMA will be questioned, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. You will say, sir, I am a resident. See, I just go out for 4 months and I come back. Then the officer, RBI officer will counter you, but you continue to hold a NRE account. So you are contradicting your own position only. One place you are definitely wrong. If you claim you are an NRI, okay, keep your NRE account, but you can't invest in agricultural land. If you say I am a resident, then you can't have NRE account. And then the quantum of transactions that are undertaken, right, those become the base for calculating the penalty.
So other example is for, suppose you are a resident. Now tomorrow your son is going out. I'm just giving example what is practically happening. They go for studies. So it's sure that he's going for a 2-year course. If you will, in most of the cases when you will go to your banker, they will actually tell you that your kid is becoming a non-resident, you actually open an NRI account. Now looking at all of these things, nowhere your son's education going out for his or her education is falling under any of these things. It is not for uncertain period. As a student, he can only go as student. He cannot even take up an employment. People go and work out there as students just to meet their daily requirements, right? They go and work there. But they don't work there because they are permitted for some hours. Otherwise, you need a work permit and everything. So you're not on that visa and all that stuff. So these are, unfortunately, FEMA is a more driven by, circulars and notifications. You don't find, FEMA is not like a law that, just how we saw in income tax, that they were very objective criterias. This has some subjective things and based on the actual conduct in that sense. So it's slightly difficult in that sense. So one has to be very careful. So as he said that for any reason, and what happens typically, when you go to a banker, okay, he will take your signature, he will make you tick everything, correct? He will make you tick that I am going for so and so, and okay, so now sir, your NRI account is open. And when the problem comes, if you go to a bank, अरे मैंने तो आपको बोला था ना, लेकिन आपने बोला, but sir, आपने टिक किया और आपने साइन किया है.
So I will tell you, sir, just to add, if let's say someone senior over here, they have had a banking relationship with a particular bank for the last 5, 10, 15 years, the branch manager or the RM will simply take your signature and he will go. He will then fill up the form in his office. You don't even know what has gone in that form. But at the end of the day, you have signed. So it is your self-declaration or self-certification kind of a thing. So then pleading ignorance before the RBI doesn't help in these kind of cases, right? So even for a student typically, and there are many practical examples like this where it becomes difficult to determine, like as a yes or no, that what will be the outcome of the residential status. Then lot of subjective facts get clubbed, that where is your family, where is your economic interest, where is your social interest, where is your permanent house, or permanent house meaning that where you have a house to stay, it can be rented also, but where is that place of permanence, so to say. And lot of other factors like this come. They have also checked instances, if someone has claimed that, okay, I'm a resident of Singapore also, okay, in India you have a lifestyle, like you have a car, you have a gym membership, you have subscription to your, professional journals, business journals. Please show me in Singapore, what are you, have you replicated this as your lifestyle? Because if you say that you are a resident of Singapore and you are staying there with a degree of permanence, then you will also have all these things over there. So RBI is very pragmatic. Okay, they have actually asked these questions, in many cases where people have tried to. See, they understand, and if you look at a particular transaction, then it gradually becomes apparent whether this has been stitched to structure it in that manner, or this is an outcome of the flow of events which have happened naturally, right? So RBI is also very smart. I mean, they have some of the best officials, and they will only go by the fact pattern. Okay, I'll just share one more example to again emphasize on uncertain period of time, like how Sanjay bhai said about a student. And it's actually a case law where a foreign national had come to India for treatment, but his treatment went on for 7 years. So the banks over here were forcing him to regard him as a resident, because he wanted to repatriate money, whatever he was getting in India. He was bringing money for his whatever medical bills, etc. and all, but he was also earning here and he wanted to repatriate as a NRI. Finally, it was held that yes, he is an NRI, because he could clearly demonstrate that he has come here for medical treatment. Now, that medical treatment is, that way, uncertain in that sense. Sorry, he was regarded as a resident. Sorry, other way around. He was regarded as a resident because he was not regarded as non-resident. He said that I've only come here for medical treatment. And so that is how. So RBI goes into the facts of each case. They will ask even for a hospital advice letter, your doctor's letter, each and everything they will review. They will do their independent verification also. So again, now you may think I am only an individual. Why would RBI, go into such a, an individual's matter in such depth? Sometimes if there is a larger transaction that has taken place, maybe an immovable property purchase sale, or maybe some other financial assets like shares, stocks, gold, other assets, etc., then those can be one of the years where they can typically it may spark their antenna, because then the amounts may be fairly large.
Sir, does it mean that for seafarers it's safer to not to have an NRI account?
So let me be very honest. First of all, it depends on the facts of the case, which I keep giving examples. If I have a medical problem and if I call up a new doctor, and I tell him, hey, I've had a very severe headache last night, and you might prescribe a medicine. So can you prescribe a medicine? Can you prescribe a medicine? Now, if I go to my regular practitioner, my family doctor, he knows my background. He knows whether I have blood pressure or not. के वो बोलेगा यार तू एस्पिरिन खा ले और सैराडोन खा ले और whatever it is, क्रोसिन खा ले तो ठीक हो जाएगा, डोलो खा ले ठीक हो जाएगा. But if you go to a new doctor, he doesn't know your background. So now go until unless you go and show yourself to the doctor. Now, applying the same situation, how is your contract worded? I mean, is it a continuous employment that, throughout the year you are only coming here for maybe 2 months or whatever it is? What is the duration you are staying outside? So all these factors come into play. So giving a blanket answer, now, if you go outside for 2 months and you are here for 6 months and then go outside for 2 months, unless what the contract says, I would say, when you come back, you'll become a resident. Or the question is whether when you're going also, whether you're non-resident or not. So it all depends on the facts of the case and very difficult to, not difficult, it will be wrong to give an answer based on, so if you want an answer, then what you need to do is, and I'm sure you have standard contracts, the entire industry will have standard contracts. So I think the way to do it is, you'll have 5 different kinds of contracts, 10 different kind of contracts. Okay? Take those 10 different kind of contracts, do a comparison, and then for each one of them say that, okay, this, you'll be a resident or you'll be a non-resident. But without actually because you could have a situation in 3 of them, I will say he's a resident even when he's outside India, and therefore you can't open an NRI account. So basically what I'm saying is, I cannot give you an answer based on understanding the facts. But it is very clear, he actually picked it up without even me analyzing it.
Yeah. I give another example. There is a person who has left here, who has gone, okay, who has gone from India, and he is having some business outside of India, but he just spends, say, about a month and a half or 2 months in that country, and he continuously for years, 8 to 10 months in India. The question was there, RBI regarded him as a resident. Because, see, that is your conduct. If I have left to carry on business uncertain period, but every year my conduct was actually that I was spending more time, 8 to 10 months in India. How can I fall under any of these things?
So basically, there are 2 things. Are you going outside for a visit or are you coming to India for a visit?
Correct. That was
No. And
so it's all factually.
So it is all these 3 overriding intentional tests ultimately to be backed by your actual conduct and factual information. So
let me give you an example.
As
If you are in Dubai, you have a house in Dubai. If you have a house in Dubai, you are employed as a foreign company. You come to India for 3, 4, 5 months while you are outside India, no. Because you are employed outside India, no issue. But here in India, you have an Indian employment contract, you are a seafarer. Now let's say you go for 1 week. You are outside India only for 3 months. And balance, you are in India all the time. Which one do you apply?
And that also you are outside India. You see, your contract is with an Indian company. You are only on beyond 12 nautical miles. That is why you are outside India.
But
and if you comes and you come back, how can you be regarded as a non-resident? Because that is very unfair for a person in India and who is actually employed in India and is also exercising his employment in India for 12 months. Just because you are 2 months outside the nautical miles, it is very unfair for the person who is here, right? So that I think will not, see, no regulator will look at it and see, they will also look at it from a holistic perspective. And very clearly, from their perspective, see, because there are restrictions for residents, right? There are liberal provisions for non-residents, which means that somewhere as an RBI who is exchange control, definitely is giving up on some foreign exchange.
So
I think that's very, because that will only lead to outflow of foreign. I'm just looking at from a holistic perspective, what is exchange control and RBI is that they have to preserve the foreign exchange for India. They cannot do something where the foreign outflow has to be there. They would be more happy with the inflow.
No, so let me give you an example.
No, I got the whole
yes.
You continue to have an NRI account because you're going to go back again. Just practical what happens, okay? But you don't misuse it for anything. So is there a penal provision for that? Because you just have the account, you're going to go again, but you don't buy property or you don't use it for anything. So nobody, it doesn't trigger anything.
So, you basically what you are saying is that you violated the law. There is a condition in the law that you cannot do any. So, the law says you can't go beyond this room. But you say that, no, I went beyond this room, but I didn't do anything.
No, I think what he's saying is they will keep the NRI account open because it is an administrative inconvenience to close
Understand.
open, close open.
Understand.
But they will do as what the law says, not misuse it. Correct, sir?
You will not put in money into the account while you are here, nor you will do something out of this. See, what happens is in this situation, say, this is what has happened. Now, there is some transaction, Kartik was explaining, there is some transaction, etc., which has happened, okay, which is important, where the question of determination of your residential status comes. At that point of time, the AD will look at your now it is thereafter how they will, for that period, whether it's just a technical default, you have not done this or that of that, how they will look at it again will based on. So there is no right answer or whether you will penalize or not. At that point of time, as I said, unfortunately there is no law or regulation.
So what I'm asking is there a penalty for them having
That
an
can
NRI
be
account?
penalty.
Yes, there can be a penalty.
That's for having it.
Yes.
So,
sir, so basically,
no, there was a ruling where a person did not convert his NRO account to a resident ordinary account, and he was penalized by the Reserve Bank of India. I think some 26,000 or 27,000 was paid.
So there are, just to add and to move on from this topic, there are two elements involved. One is the non-compliance with the law itself, that from NR you became R, so shut down your NRE account and convert your NRO to a savings bank account, a domestic savings bank account. Now let's say there are no transactions in both these situations. Your NRE is also lying idle, for example, and your NRO is also lying idle. The only default that you have done is you have not closed NRE and non-converted. In which case, RBI will levy a penalty, but it will be a very nominal penalty. And it cannot be that you are doing this you are a repeated offender. Then there is no ignorance also to be pled, right? But let's say in this situation, what Sanjay ji was also saying, that you have done some transactions which were otherwise not allowed. Then the penalty for the second part is also determined on the quantum of the transaction and any potential gains that you have earned out of it. Okay, so we have seen many a times RBI straight away, because a lot of people try to circumvent, they do some very short term, earning from using funds outside India, etc. RBI straight away levied a percentage of that, because unjust enrichment is a concept which RBI follows.
What would trigger RBI at that level to get into simple things like a person having report?
So that's why I mentioned that. So typically it will not, but a larger transaction in your case.
Correct.
Yeah.
But okay, no, just so sorry on this. What will happen is that typically now any interest comes on this NRI. In your tax return, you will always claim it at X, which is not correct. Because you are not actually, that NRI account is not an account which you could have.
Correct.
So there, see now we have to also need to understand that regulators are connected. No? Gone are those days that one right hand and left hand they don't know anything. So you have to be careful in that things which are happening.
The same thing happens with your investments in mutual
Correct.
Absolutely, sir.
Come, right?
Absolutely.
Your dividend which comes, you have not, you have not converted, right? You are making investments from that. The deductor company also will be treating you as a non-resident. So there.
That is a higher deduction.
Yeah.
That is a higher deduction. I do that.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. So that you will claim in your return of income. You will claim that as a TDS.
So that is a wrong claim.
Wrong claim. No, I'm saying, see, there it's not very simple to, or the answer is not very simple that what can happen to me if it is a minimal. There are
No, I think sir, his question is different. Sorry, his question.
No, I'm only saying that agencies are connected. So whatever decision or whatever you take, you have to be cognizant of all of this. It's not that it's not going to come to RBI. I think we started with that. How will even RBI come to know, or why will they be bothered? So now once it goes, see, then you are amongst the others. Now the quantum may not be different. वो बोलते हैं ना, ₹1 की भी चोरी और 100 crore की भी चोरी. Now how will that regulator look at that point of time and how they will do? There is no answer to this.
No, so I'll tell you another thing. I'll tell you another thing. So you do it. One tax officer picks up that you have claimed an exemption wrong. Okay. So then what will happen is they will look at the second one. So यार ये बोलेगा ये तो trend है. Because now everything is artificial. Okay, so I think we need to move ahead because we need to finish this in the next half an hour. I don't have too much time.
No, sir, not half an hour. We'll have to complete because he mentioned 2 o'clock. They have another.
And what is the practical way out? You approach the bank itself to close NRI. You approach the mutual fund itself.
No, the practical way out is first you need to decide whether you're a non-resident or not.
Okay, supposing now you're a resident.
Then you have to close.
Then you have to go approach
Yes.
the mutual fund.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you give them documentation?
Same like what you did. You go to your banker and you will have to tell them that no longer I. And I think what you have to write is.
Sir, a simple letter. When you go out from R to NR, when you typically inform them. I don't think people will be writing letters. They might be just communicating over a call or WhatsApp or anything. But the procedure is to write them a letter. And like this, you have to write to all your financial institutions, your brokers, etc., etc. There is no provision like this, then it's a practical call that we are taking.
अच्छा अभी
Then it's a practical. Yeah, we are.
now we will call it a day because what happens that we have many senior seafarers हैं तो हम लोग talk से लग रहा है कि we are defaulters on many things. Okay. तो सब आदमी 25,000 30,000 रुपया दे के और सेपरेट एडवाइस लीजिए. मे बी फॉर यंगस्टर दे विल नॉट बी द डिफॉल्टर. तो अभी सर आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा प्लीज कम. या विल क्लोज बट प्लीज.
Good man, good afternoon, lady. Small announcement. I am Mohan Singh Pal, the director here. After this session, after the lunch, okay, of course, class 2, both batch be here, okay, and we have one basically financial planning or investment sort of a seminar. Basically taking that. He is also marine engineer. He is 1 year senior to me, 1981 DMED pass out. Okay, and why I am making this elaboration is that I would like to invite other people also for his basically lecture or his seminar. Okay, because it will be very, very beneficial. All of you have earned your money, right? Now it is a time to basically let the money earn itself. You start basically relaxing, right? So that is what is the way of doing that. Of course, tax you have to pay on that also, right? So I'll, like 2 minutes, just overview, 1 line overview what you are going to cover. So other people also are interested. Okay? So you, all of you are invited, first of all. That is what my basically main of. the CAs and lawyers and senior experts, they are also invited for this. Because you also would like to invest your money. Okay, thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. Now to sum up quickly, I would like to thank everybody, and I request Tushar Pradhanji to give a token of appreciation to Sanjay Grover sahab for today's seminar. I will call Captain BP Singh, please come. Yeah. Then I request Captain BP Singh to give to Mr. Kapadia sahab, please. And I request Captain Mudli sahab to come and give the appreciation to Mr. Mehta, please. Aye, sir. And now I request Captain BP Singh to give vote of thanks, and then please join for the lunch. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, let me introduce myself, Captain BP Singh. Let me begin my thanking our wonderful audience spending time with us on Saturday. We are most grateful for your presence, and we do hope that the event has met your expectation. May I also thank our speakers for taking out time from their busy schedule to grace their event with their honorable presence. We would also like to thank all attendees as who have shared their immense expertise and knowledge for the taxation. A special thank to IME House for providing the premises. It has been such a wonderful and well equipped. We thank our media partners, Sheila Today, others who help and spread the word about the event and who are also present here today. A special thank to CMI, Navi, Mumbai committee members, as well as seminar subcommittee members who have worked tirelessly and selflessly to make this event a great success. Now it's time for all of us to enjoy and very sumptuous lunch which awaits. Thank you.